So good morning, guys. And we are now in day 2 of the summit, our prediction and planning summit. So of course, before we go further into what we are going to cover for today, I'd like to do a quick review of what we had covered yesterday. So I thought what most people found very interesting, we've gotten some feedback from the people who were here yesterday. What most people found most interesting was the 4 strategies that I proposed in terms of how people are sort of preparing for the air era that is onto us. So of course, yesterday we looked at the invincibility model, and we saw how some countries are trying to play the old game of like trying to be the best, try to dominate others, and how some of the results that we get are not always as we expected. It doesn't always mean that we are number one all the time. And also the fact that we are number one just sort of leaves that really strange feeling that goes a bit against the air era idea of a collective identity, that people are collaborating with each other and that they're helping each other, because then it becomes a very win-lose sort of situation. And we also looked at the safe zone strategy, when most people tried to sort of keep things the way they were, try to sort of like keep the systems in place, and realizing very quickly that some of these systems, it's not really up to us. The situations have changed so quickly, whether you're talking about geographical changes, weather changes, climate changes, or even the fact that people have changed their criteria. And also, I think in terms of how things are being seen, the way we look at our leaders, the way we look at the systems and the people that we work for, the way in which we work with each other has started to change so drastically in the last 2 to 3 years that I think a lot of people are questioning what then is the wisdom behind trying to keep the safe zone going. And for most of you, you probably start questioning, if not already in the last 2 to 3 years, by now, you should start questioning the wisdom of trying to remain in the safe zone. And also yesterday, we looked at the idea of the innovation, because this was something that became not just a desire, but I think it became more of a necessity when the COVID pandemic happened. And it meant that a lot of people who were basically dragging their feet and saying that, oh, one day we will go digital. One day we will allow people to work from home. And, it's like, and a lot of people gave a lot of excuses about why, or I don't think it will work. I think it's like, things is going to fall flat on our face if we try to do something different. And I think what happened during the COVID pandemic was that a lot of people found, to their surprise, that when we basically sort of loosen things up and allow things to be done in a different way, it worked. And in some cases, it worked much better than they expected. And I think what was the biggest realization for a lot of people is that a lot of these changes can happen in a very short time if you allow it to happen. And this is where I think the safe zone and the innovation parts sort of like they sort of fight with each other, because the safe zone was like, cannot, like, this is how we've always done things, and I don't think we will survive if we do things in a different way. And then the innovation people pretty much say, why cannot, right? Why can't we just go and try something else? So of course, then innovation was basically the buzzword for some time now. And I think in the mass media, among most people who sort of discuss things among themselves, the innovation is still the buzzword in terms of how we are going forward. But yesterday, I also proposed that if you are going to be following an astrologer, and the whole idea is to see ahead of time, that we're not just looking at 2022 and 2023, but rather we are looking ahead to what's happening in 2025, 2026. And I think it's very silly of us to sort of wait until the earthquake comes before we decide that, oh shit, I think we need to have a more robust, more agile kind of system. And that perhaps we have all these big buildings, big skyscrapers, and all these purchase process, how you want to buy something and then you put in a purchase order and the whole thing takes 6 months. And for a lot of people, it's like, wow, this is like so 1980 something sort of process that is really starting to bother a lot of people. But yet, the safe zone still is very rampant in people's lives. And it's hard to see how we can get past that. And how can we get things done real quick? How come people just can't make decisions in something like 2 or 3 minutes? Is it really that complicated? So this is where innovation starts to be a little bit strange now, because then we are trying to make the Earth era work. And I think as people start to realize that, okay, we have a problem, our cities are flooding. So the cities have been great for a long time. If people make money, there's jobs, people buy property, the price keeps going higher and higher in every city in the world. And it becomes so that the next generation has pretty much decided that, I'm not really sure I even want to buy a property. And then the parents lose their mind saying, how can you not own your property? And it's this idea of that is really, really shifting whether you like it or not, because the circumstances have been such that you cannot hold on to the old ideas. And this is why yesterday, at the end of the session yesterday, I introduced a fourth strategy that I have a feeling that not very many people are talking about. The whole media is talking about innovation, because the whole idea is to try to keep that Earth era thing there as long as possible. And we think that by innovating, by changing 3 or 4 things, that maybe things can remain. And I'm pretty much suggesting that if you studied the history of the world, that in the end, it's not about, it's like, imagine if you go from the fire to the Earth era, and if the whole idea was to try to innovate tailoring. So imagine if you were a tailor in the fire era, and you thought that, oh, maybe we can innovate, because now people like machine, right? Because machine is faster. Then, so people are very superficial. They think that by machine washing, because that was what happened in those days, that if you sew by hand, then you were old fashioned. That if you got machine, that's good, because that's what they're doing in London, right? So somebody buys a sewing machine, and then they think that by doing that, they will survive. That a tailor who makes like handmade clothes can survive, and they don't. Because the game changer here is not the machine. The game changer here, when we went into the Earth era, was a completely new system where people didn't just go to a tailor. They actually had machines made by the millions and the millions in a big building that looks like a square with 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 15,000 employees just churning out machines, and they made t-shirts, because nobody actually wanted. And what a lot of people didn't understand at the time is that they didn't want a handmade shirt. They wanted a t-shirt that was churned out by a machine by the millions, and everybody started wearing the same t-shirt. And the funny thing was, people were wondering, why are you people okay with wearing the same t-shirt? But that's just the way it was, right? So the thing is, just by innovating, by tech washing, or just by adding in a machine doesn't actually make us air era. And that's the part that is very scary for a lot of people. Then it's like, wow, I mean, what are you talking about with this new mindset? Okay, and this is why with agility, I mean, I also want to be honest with everyone. I'm an Earth era person, and which means that if I'm looking at agility, there's also a limit to how far my human brain can fathom what this agility is going to look like. But as I said, today, my main purpose is to sort of give some ideas, some guidelines, and to share the vast research that I've done into this human history, and to look at previous times and what has been happening throughout human history that gives us a lot of insights as to how people go on. Because we've had the Cleopatra period, you've had the Greek period, right? And you had people, ancient China, Majapahit Empire, or whatever it is. And somehow humans have existed. They've somehow managed to continue. Things come, things go, people die, people be born. And what exactly is it that keeps us going, that really makes that difference to how people are going to be in the next era? Because then we have the additional challenge that our forefathers did not have, which was that we have to live in 2 eras, not just one. Okay, so let's go on, and I'm going to go on with some of the forecasts that I promised yesterday. So I said there will be 9 countries and regions. I ended with Saudi Arabia yesterday. And of course, number 9 would be Singapore. Okay. So, but before that, okay, let's go and talk about this concept of the agility. All right. Okay. So when we talk about agility, the first thing is this. Even if you look at the dictionary meaning of agility, is the ability to react very quickly to changing situations. And in past webinars, I've sort of described the current system. Everybody's system is like a gigantic Titanic. It's a huge ship, it's state of the art, and it's luxury, and everybody's dream is to get on the Titanic. But you see, when push comes to shove, when it's really time to react quickly, and the irony is, if you actually look into what actually happened with the Titanic's maiden voyage, is that they did see the iceberg. They saw it a long time ago. And this is exactly what we are seeing in the world right now. Like, how many decades have we all of us been warning about the financial system, that if you keep printing money, we're all going to die, right? That perhaps if we keep making plastics, for example, at some point we're going to run out of landfill. Right? And things like that. We've seen that iceberg for a very, very long time. And everybody is screaming. It's like, turn the Titanic, like turn it now. And you find the weird thing is that, it's like, imagine that you're on the deck of the ship and you see the iceberg there. Right? And it's like, you keep screaming for it to turn, and then it doesn't turn it because the ship is gigantic. It is so big. And then it's like people are like, so how? Then don't know, I wait for instructions. The boss never say, ma. The boss never say means no need do lah. And that means this whole point was that the Titanic did not turn fast enough. And that's how the thing sinks. And this is why agility, the first thing that we have to admit here is that if as an individual on the boat, now, if there was something that a person on that ship could do, then if everybody, so this is a crazy idea, but if everybody on that ship goes like, oh, wait, shit, iceberg, everybody grabs an oar and we all start rowing at the same time. And that's basically how fast can you do it? 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 2 hours? Can we get this done real quick? And the thing is the ability to react very, very quickly to changing situations. And this is where today, I will keep referring to this, right? When you look at your 2023 plan, how much of it is like, okay, can we somehow find a way? Maybe the Titanic, if we go fast enough, maybe we can crash into the iceberg and somehow survive, Or is your plan more about, okay, crap, like we kind of need to sort of shift our strategy real quick, or to get ourselves into a space that, because we don't know what is coming up and it's so unpredictable, are you put yourself in a place where you and your team or your collaborators can, if the situation changes, sure, I mean, we can, in about 5 minutes, in about maximum 2 hours, maybe in a week, we could probably change this entire strategy without having to put in a purchase order that takes 6 months to be approved. You know what I'm saying? So then it's like, and the other thing is that agility is about fitting into new teams. And one of the other problems about the Earth era is that you kind of want to be in that, what we call a permanent space. And it's like you want to always work with the same people and the same situation. And then it's like some people say that, oh, but then this is the function that I do, right? Then if you ask this person to do something different, then they garang gabo, they don't know what to do. Then they say, oh, this is not my expertise. And this is another issue that is going to plague a lot of people as we transition from one to the other. So if you've been a petrochemical engineer for like the last 25 years, for example, and suddenly we are like, oh, ask you to go and grow vegetables. It's like, oh, sorry, I don't know how to do. And it's like, that becomes a really, really big problem. Or that, sorry, I'm used to working in a big MNC. Then now you ask me to work with 3 or 4 people, then it's like, I feel that it's very weird for me. And we will hear this over and over and over again, guys. And this is why agility has to challenge this. So that means, are you able to simply go to another team, look at what is necessary to be done, and then you just contribute in your way? And this is agility. Now, another thing is that we want to talk about agility as the beautiful thing about this strategy is that it is in a period of personal freedom and choice. So which means you can change teams. You can change the way in which we do things. We don't have to follow an SOP that had been set in 1986, if you know what I'm saying. That it's like, does that mean that SOPs don't exist, or it's like exchange systems don't exist? But no, we can still have those things, but perhaps right now it is possible that people individually and teams individually can start deciding that, oh, that's just not how we do things. We have an SOP, it's just different from what normally people do. And the reason why we have a different SOP is because we serve a different market, or we would like to maintain the agility, and so that we have a choice that we can change things very quickly. Okay, so that's the basis of when we talk about agility. How far does you and your country and the people you work with, how robust are you in terms of all these criteria? So let's go look at Singapore, and this is the forecast for 2023. So first thing that I see here is that it will be a consciousness of new threats. And this obviously is very natural, isn't it? Because then when I say new threats, I don't exactly mean that somebody declares war on you or we start dropping bombs again. Okay, so threats come in many different forms. And even yesterday, as I talked about this concept of, can you see, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this planet here in the number 4th house, this planet is called Pluto. And it is, well, we call it the god of death, right? He's Hades, he's the bad guy, right? And when he shows up in the 4th house, it means that on the ground, people start to go like, oh, danger or threat or crisis. Okay, so that happens. And if you notice yesterday, when I did the forecast for many other countries, there were quite a few countries that had this same thing that was there. And I suppose in Indonesia's case, it quite literally is a threat to the land, because then they are literally flooding on an annual basis. I understand that with the rains that has been happening right now, a lot of places in Malaysia are also flooding in a way that makes people feel like, wow, I'm not sure I can live like this. This happens multiple times a year. Then it's like my home is under threat. And you don't even need terrorists to come and threaten your home for a person to feel that, well, I just don't feel that things are the same as they used to be. So even for Singapore, now I don't honestly think that there's going to be a threat or like, there's going to be like massive flooding at the same level, but threat can be. So I've written here that the security of the country becomes a very top priority, mainly because it's, even if you do nothing, but just observe what is happening around in the world. And especially as Singapore is a really small country, I've always maintained that one of the big problems with Singapore, as Mr. Lee Kuan Yew said many years ago, is that we don't produce anything, right? Singapore doesn't produce anything. Look around you, those of you who live in Singapore, you look around you in your home, you tell me which thing around you is actually produced in your own country. It is not. So basically, the country buys and trades with other regions. And that means that you cannot afford to ignore the other issues that are happening in other regions, because immediately it affects what you get, what you don't get, what you can do and what you can't do. Okay, so that means in terms of the financial front, and when I say a financial threat, I don't always mean that the stock market going to crash or any big earthquake like that. Even small things like the availability of things. That means when people go to the supermarkets and you start to realize that the options and the brands available are like less and less, and then whatever is available, the price higher and higher. So those are the things that can start to contribute to a psychological growing fear that, wow, I start to feel the threat. And it's just not the way it used to be. Okay, so this is a reality that has been happening ever since the COVID pandemic. And we also have things like operational threats, that things that used to be very easy, you just get on a phone call the guy in Egypt, and then somehow this thing gets done. Suddenly, the operations are not so simple. Your ships get stuck, right? And perhaps a connection that used to be open is no longer open. And things like that are going to happen. Like how quickly can we embrace that reality that this will happen, even if nothing bad actually happens to Singapore, but then it happens elsewhere and it affects us as well. So this can be things like, even there can also be things like financial threats from even things like very sophisticated crime. It's simply just a byproduct of the fact that the world starts to a bit like no government, if you know what I mean. Like, especially if in other countries, may not happen in Singapore, but if governments, legislation, and right now the legalities are very hard to enforce nowadays, mainly because things have gone online. People are very sophisticated nowadays. Government can't keep up. The police can't keep up. And that means I'm sure everyone has noticed that crime has gotten a lot more sophisticated. So it's like, I'm not talking about just the criminals per se, but also the fact that things just don't work the way they used to do. Okay, and it comes from what we call unseen dangers. And unseen dangers is not just terrorists, guys. Unseen dangers could be, maybe you, like I said, you thought this operational thing would be open, and then suddenly you get an email saying that, sorry, this thing not open already. And that's an unseen danger. Okay, and again, as what I said yesterday when I talked about the situation in Taiwan and in Hong Kong, is that if you were sitting at a table trying to plan for next Q2, Q3, Q4, or whatever it is that your company does, it's that there begins this growing apprehension about, okay, I mean, we can plan for the launch in Q3, but then I'm not very sure whether the product will be here on time. And it's a very realistic threat that things like that are going to happen. So, and you find that, so by about March to June, mainly because Singapore has really quite a decent government, it means that you should expect to see that the people who are in charge, the people whose jobs are to anticipate what are some of the challenges that will come up, they're working very hard. Okay, so that means around this time, because as I said, why March? Is because, like I said, in March, suddenly things will shift in the world, and we will all notice it when you read the newspapers. So that means in other countries, suddenly people are like, oh, I don't care about my president or my prime minister. Then we just decided today that we don't want a prime minister. And if things like that happen like in a whim, right? So it means that, wow, we have to react, because then immediately it will affect us. So government agencies, civil service, they will start to take what I call disaster resilience very seriously. And to the credit of the local government, I think they've been taking it very seriously for the past few years already. So what this means is that some people who are listening to this, you may be part of those agencies. And even if you're not, it's a good thing that people need to start getting conscious of what those threats actually are. And I want to emphasize that it doesn't mean that there's an actual threat to the country. I do not see any like what terrorist attack or any nonsense like that. Yeah. So it's between March to June, the apprehension is strong. And then quite naturally that when people start to become conscious of that, then the next thing that usually happens is that the country could slow down for a bit. So those of us who are very used to the fact that things in Singapore move real quick, and then you might find that between June to July, actually this will last all the way until February of next year, but it is strongest in June, July, because we are going to feel it. And that means that as the apprehension starts growing, and it means it's hard to predict what other countries will do. So which means sometimes we tend to slow projects down, we tend to delay it because, okay, let's just wait and see how this plays out. So that means activity will seem to slow down. And naturally, this could then also lead to a bit of an economy slowdown because then things don't move so quickly. It's logic, isn't it? So that a lot of people are in a waiting and in a planning stage. So that means for all of us here, like if you are doing some kind of business, if you are doing things like that, then what then is a smart thing for you to do in Singapore is that, let me tell you what most people will do. They'll sit around and complain. Then they'll just say, yeah, last time can do this, then now cannot. I mean, sure, we can complain, but not very good use of your time. Yeah. So astrologically, what we see here is a Saturn-Mars connection. And I would suggest that actually, instead of like sort of lamenting what has changed, and if you are going to be on my summit, the whole point of agility is to realize that we need to adjust to a changing situation. So what then is a smarter thing to do is start looking at your systems. And then since there's not much activity going on, you might as well start thinking about how you can eliminate processes. Like try to make things fast so that, okay, look at all the scenarios that's available. And then you basically you want to be kiasu, right? Be absolutely kiasu and think about, okay, if this scenario happens, here's what we're going to do. If this scenario happens, here's what we're going to do. And that is the best use of time and effort, that it's about building resilience and knowing what to do in most scenarios. And you'll find that Singapore, strangely enough, not very characteristic, is not going to be so interested in what I call the competition and the invincibility strategy anymore. Because then most people will start to realize that, okay, there are no winners here. So there's no point to try and be like dominate the market, just not the time for it. Okay, so that's going to be very unusual in a Singapore context. But what I do see as a potential risk is that Singapore could be stuck in what I call the safe zone. So that means most people will start doing the wrong thing, which is that let's try to make this system like somehow still survive. And like I said, if you're going to be on my summit, it's not to innovate, to keep like an old-fashioned Titanic going. It is really to start thinking, how can we start moving people into sampans so that you can start rowing quickly and get away from the iceberg? Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so then this is the smart thing to do. Most people, listen to this, most people, maybe 90% of people will do what the Earth era thing is to try and keep the Titanic going. Okay, a smart thing to do is get on sampans. Okay, so then you'll find that work patterns are going to change for obvious reasons. And I think also people are going to start taking the opportunity to look at where balance has not been there. So obviously things like work-life balance, and there are people who are going to go like, oh, it's kind of nice that things have slowed down because then it means that I have more time to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is that you typically don't have time to do. And in a sense, that's a bit of the air era thing sort of creeping in, where suddenly people go like, I don't really need to make that same amount of money. It's just not worth the stress and that feeling of like I'm just not good enough, and you just keep going on the invincibility model. So in a sense, I see the silver lining in this. So in June, July, that means, guys, if you're looking at your 2023 plan, now if I'm accurate about this, and it means that you don't panic when June, July shows up, and then start finding more useful things to do, start building your agility activities, right? So basically you get on a sampan, right? And if you get on a sampan and if you show people that, hey, I got on a sampan and I didn't die, we don't all have to be on the Titanic. And that means that it's easier for you to show people that, hey, you can join in this movement so that things continue moving, just not, basically the ships are still rowing, people are still on the water, it's just that they are just not on the Titanic. Okay, so that's on my timeline. Here's where, like I said, by March, world changes. There's a lot of these different criteria. Some countries go a bit crazy. So then that's why the black areas are there. Okay, so let's go on. And I would say Singapore being the agile country that it is, and I know it's a bit strange for me to say it that way because a lot of people complain that Singapore is like so square and whatever. And the funny thing is, if you look into the history of how Singapore has operated, they actually have been quite agile as a country. I'm not sure about the internal systems, but as a country, we've been pretty agile. And it's one of the reasons why the country has been able to weather a lot of storms in the last 30, 40 years. And I would like to suggest that the reaction is actually pretty good, mainly because the anticipation is good. And one of the advantages of being in Singapore is that a lot of the difficulties and the worst case scenarios have been anticipated long before. And this means that if you live or you work here in Singapore, a smart thing to do is to adopt that because there's already a very good culture of anticipating problems and making sure you do everything in your power to have this going. The show goes on no matter what happens. So basically from about June onwards, and I think partly because things start to slow down a bit, right? So then you find that we start to get into what we call agility mode already. So that means people are looking for ways to revitalize energy. And like I said, the energy, if you're smart, don't channel it to making Titanic go get on sampan. But what you want to do is you see a lot of increased investment in things like tech or economic activity. And the thing about the word investment is that we keep thinking about, then all the money is going to go in there. But I like to suggest a different thing here because like I said, Pluto is moving into Aquarius. And that means the next time you see the word investment, just consider that it's not always just an investment of money. It's an investment of time and effort and manpower. That means more people are investing themselves into different new types of technology or even economic activity that contributes to that resilience. And that means the optimism will rise with the people on the ground. I see that happening around between August to September. It will basically people get sick and tired of like not much going on. Then people are bored already, right? So then they start to find useful things that you can do. And you also see that in general, this period, there's a bit of favorable opinion from the people. And quite frankly, this being Singapore, it's not impossible that then everybody might be receiving some financial assistance around this time. But having said that, I also want to emphasize, I mentioned yesterday that a lot of the things that you depend on in the Earth era, you cannot depend on it in the Air era. And while it's been really nice in general, that it's like, every time crisis, then it's like, you get handouts. But I think that it's also very silly to sort of depend on those handouts. And logically speaking, how long can you receive handouts? You see, and it's not sustainable. It's not the way that people want to continue living into the Air era. And this is why I think that if something like this happens, and if I'm correct, and if by August you see that there's more people are very open to investing not just money but time and effort, then you want to be on the forefront of people who are really sitting down and saying, what can we do? And then go invest yourself into those things. And I think if you're looking for a more purposeful life, I think that makes more sense than just sitting around and cowpaying about how many things are not available in NTUC anymore, right? And so and then I also see that around this period, it may coincide with leadership changes. This will not be a surprise to most people. It's building up for some time now. Most of the time, this kind of leadership changes typically refers to the person who runs the country. However, I think it's a lot more than that. When we look into astrology charts, it's not just about like one person, like a prime minister or who is that person that is in charge, but I think it's general leadership changes. So that means even in the organizations that you are in, because especially as organizations start to realize that, okay, maybe we need a different strategy. Sometimes some organizations might decide that, okay, maybe we need a different person in charge. Maybe we need to break things up into smaller groups and more people start to be in charge of smaller things. And this is what I mean by leadership changes. It is a pattern that happens in the country, not just one person. And that's why it represents a new approach to leadership. There's more innovation, more modern, and that people are looking at how can we change things and make things faster, because otherwise too slow, Titanic cannot turn. Okay, and that means it's quite good. It's a period of busy activity. So Singapore slows down and then it sort of like, gets a bit more exciting from about August to September onwards. Okay, so let's look at the timeline. Sorry about that. And then if you see can you see by August, September, can you see even if you don't know astrology, you can see some beginnings happening around this time. And the conversation is a little bit more positive. People are in discussion mode, okay, which is a good thing for the air era. Okay, let's go on. And I also see that there are some maybe not so nice things, okay, which is the first thing is that there's a lot more sensitive information. So while I say that the more conversations will happen, but there will also be some guidelines as to which conversations are acceptable and which conversations are not acceptable. And this is a pattern that we've seen coming up for some time now, and it started to intensify by about February of last year. So in general, it will usually affect like political or legal subjects, even as the world gets a bit haywire, right? And then some of the things that are being discussed, you may find that are not so openly discussed, or it's not so easy to get the conversation going. So and also, given the fact it's also like it's sensitive information because there's a lot of like a bit of hiding going on. So things like crimes, scams, misinformation, news, it can sort of get to a point where people, when they hear something, there's a lot of skepticism already. It's like, can you trust this? Or like, I don't know whether do you have an agenda for telling me this? Things like that. So that's another area in which like the environment can feel like it's not as safe as it used to be. All right, so even you get SMSs or WhatsApp on your phone and they say what government say this, then you must check make sure the link correct. So they ask you to go there, put in SingPass, and things like that have already been happening. And I suspect that it will intensify because a lot of people will take advantage of the fact that things are not so organized as they used to be in the world. Okay, and also can there be like feelings of anger? There's like also a bit unfairness, like some people are adjusting better than the other. Again, this human nature. And also that while this feeling, so there's this feeling is strongest around the September-October period. It doesn't persist for very long, but it does leave what I call a long tail. So that means it's intense for a while and then it goes away, but it sort of remains there. Okay, so and this is where I see, but between, say, the September-October period of this year, there is a solar eclipse that is hitting Singapore at that time. So you may see some people feeling like things are not equal. There's a bit of inequality, and that conversation will come up. It is quite intense. If you see the red section here, between like this December-Jan period, then yes, I also think that because a few countries are like a bit more active during that period, then you may find that a concern for things like security, safety might come up. But you may want to be rest assured, I don't actually see anything that signals an actual threat to Singapore. So basically, people will get concerned, but I don't actually see anything. If I did, I'll tell you guys, okay? I just don't see it, okay? So that's the Singapore forecast, and it's basically a bit like an up and down sort of period. I think the issue for Singapore is less on a real sort of level, but I think it's very psychological, that for people to be in a bit of a bubble, you're sort of like covered by cotton wool, by a really, really good government. And I think all the more, it is very important that Singaporeans do need to pay much more attention to what's happening in the world. Most people are quite apathetic to like wars or like what's going on. The assumption is always that there will always be a mountain to lean on, and that if things get bad, you're going to get a handout. And I think the danger is on a much deeper level, that while you may not actually be directly affected, but it also means that we don't have a long-term thinking. People are just thinking, now got money in bank account, they're okay already. And that kind of mindset can be very bad, right? Because people are not looking at, you don't have the certainty of what's coming up in the upcoming years. And the worst thing is when you're lulled into a false sense of security, it means that people are not contributing to what could be a better foundation on which to go into the air era. For lack of a better word, of a better analogy, I think we could be on a very, very good Titanic, if you know what I'm trying to say. And that means that if the Titanic is so confident that you can crash into an iceberg and somehow not sink, and that means that if you survive one iceberg, you're assuming that you will survive the next iceberg. And I don't think that's a very smart strategy. The faster people learn to get on sampans, then you actually have genuine security, because then you're not thinking about when the next iceberg is going to show up. Okay, so something to think about here for all of us who live and work in Singapore. Okay, and next, I want to go and cover the fifth influential man that I think is going to have a massive influence on the world, not necessarily in Earth era ways. There will be a huge Earth era influence from this person and what he is planning to do. But if you ask me, I think his influence is going to be even bigger on an air era level. Okay, and let me show you who this is. It's not Elon Musk, it's Bill Gates. Okay, so let's talk about Bill Gates here. Now, of course, known as a person who used to be one of the richest men in the world, he still is. As of now, he is ranked number 5 behind all the big wigs like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all those guys, right? So Bill Gates. Okay, so one of the patterns that I see happening in Bill Gates' chart is that on a bigger level, I think for many years, Bill Gates didn't always have like the best reputation. Like he was known to be a bit of a shark in terms of business. His Microsoft took over the world. A lot of people are still using Microsoft software, and it's still developing more and more things. So it's his influence undoubted. But also the funny thing is, when I studied his chart, I noticed a few patterns that I didn't quite understand, and it's starting to become clear to me right now. And I see here that he's very interested in practical solutions and healing pain. And he started his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation many, many years ago. And I understand that they've been doing some pretty good things. In the research that I have done, I have seen that he created a system, a vaccination system across the world that I know people are like skeptical about it. And there's a lot of criticism about like the COVID vaccination and all that stuff. But the reality is that he has provided his system has provided vaccinations to more than 1.2 million people, and almost all of those are from third world countries and from people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford any kind of medical assistance in that way. They just don't have the money for it. So he's been doing some pretty good stuff. Okay. So what I see here is that from March onwards, he develops what I call a very intense, but yet a very unemotional relationship with the public. So when I say intense, I don't mean he's going on YouTube and crying on camera, and that's not what I mean. It's that he seems to want to much more intensely want to heal the problems of the world. And I've been watching what Bill Gates has been doing for some time, and he's getting more and more involved with some pretty interesting projects. And this placement here, all these astrological indicators suggest that he may involve a lot of eccentric behavior or doing things that you just wouldn't normally associate with a man who built an IT empire. And I also see, because Pluto is here. Now, when you look at this particular red line here, this green indicator describes a person who feels pain when you're dealing with the public or when you have a relationship with people. And then I see Pluto here, which is a bit like a god of death, but also very dark emotions. Now, normally, I would say this looks like a divorce, but then he already divorced Melinda Gates some time ago. So I know that this does not describe a divorce. And that means what I saw was a bit of like an atonement for guilt, that somehow he felt very, very guilty about something and he wanted to atone to the world. And that was very interesting to me. I didn't understand it at first. And then I also see that this year, he will be spending a lot of hard work. And the projects that he's doing must have practical outcomes, and that he is specifically going to the worst problems, the traumas and the crises of the world, and trying to solve those problems. And it's like that the skeptic in me is always going like, okay, so what's this billionaire trying to do, right? But I can tell you, as an astrologer, I have squeezed his chart for any kind of like dark agendas, and I can't find it. I really cannot find a dark agenda. And and he's a lot willing to do projects that may not have a personal ROI. I don't see any indicators of him trying to get like a personal gain or a benefit out of it. And this seems to be really strong between March to June. Okay, and so let me show you some of the more crazy projects that he's into, which I thought was very interesting. And this project is not new. He's worked on it for some years now, but he invented a toilet that can turn human shit into ashes. And I think he started showing a lot of interest in a technology that turns human shit into drinkable water. And it sounds a bit crazy, right? But the potential for this to help a lot of third world countries, when people are basically, they're shitting into rivers, they don't have proper sewage systems, and it's making a lot of people very, very sick. And it becomes this vicious cycle that sick people pass it to their kids, and then so on and so forth. So what he's doing with this toilet that sounds like a bit ridiculous and a bit funny, right? But the fact is, its ability to change the the state of life for many millions of people who don't get a say in the world actually is pretty amazing. And a lot of this is coming from the foundation money. And let's be frank here, it's the kind of investment that isn't going to get a huge ROI if you think about it. It's going to help people who can't even pay for their daily meals, let alone like the solution that will stop disease from spreading with them. And he's done this. It's like you can be a skeptic, but the thing is, it's really good technology. And then also, this is the latest one. He's starting to back a startup that is tackling cow burps and farts. So, and the thing is, why is this important? It's because a lot of people are concerned about this whole meat problem, right? And people are saying that, if we don't solve this problem, then because all the climate activists are saying that these cows are releasing methane and all sorts of horrible gases, and that means like global warming and all that stuff, right? And it means that most people are trying to do the other thing, which is the innovation. Remember, I talked about innovation is trying to solve the problem of the Earth era. So if, for example, okay, so now no more meat, right? Then what we normally do is now we try and produce fake meat. And that's like Impossible Burgers and like all sorts of various things. Like try to explore what else can people eat so that we don't die from like no protein and that kind of things. So there's that. And it's not that it's wrong. It's not that innovation is wrong, but it doesn't solve the root cause of the problem, which is that, well, the cows they will always be producing methane, whether you eat beef or not, right? So then for him, he's just gone and developed technology that, well, can we actually do something about that gas? And at the very least, can we stop it from continuing to create problems in the world? And then later, at the later stages, think about how can we convert that methane into maybe something that is better. So it goes to the root cause of the issue. And that's another project that Bill Gates is on, apart from many, many, many other projects that he's working on. And what's very heartening is that quite a lot of his projects are specifically not necessarily helping the rich countries, but he is really going into the poor countries and the people who are stuck in that vicious Earth era cycle where they can never break out of that poverty cycle. And he's really trying to look at the root causes that could really help these people. So you do your research, guys, and it's very heartening research. And he's really putting his money where his mouth is, okay? And he's not just saying it. So, and one of the latest news you can see here in July of last year, he actually announced that he plans to give away virtually all of his $113 billion. He's going to give it away. And there's a lot of impactful projects. And in my research, it was so interesting that that there were a lot of analysis that were being made by economists and financial analysts. And some people were saying that as he gives his money away, let me tell you how big his empire is, okay? As he gives his money away, they say his biggest challenge is to give it away in such a way that he doesn't earn it back. So that means it's like it impacts so many things that somehow that money goes back to him. And it's like you think about it, how does it get that a person is so rich until it's like he couldn't even give it away? And it's like there's something wrong with the system here in the sense that it is an automatic thing that the people at the top, as long as more investment or more money goes on in the world, they automatically earn it back. So it's not so much that they are the bad guys, that they are trying to scrape money from you. There's something wrong with the system that I couldn't even give it away, even if I tried. And this is where a lot of analysts say that as he gives his money away, there will be a period of time where he actually gets richer, because he's giving so much of it away. And there's so much money in this involved that as he gives it away, he has to be very careful too, because it could destabilize. With that much money, it straight away destabilizes any industry that it is in. So let's talk about Earth era thing. When a person pumps that much money into something, whether it's technology or into the third world countries or something, right? The main thing is that with that much resources and capital, it will start to move markets. And whether is it in a positive or negative thing, it really depends on where you are and what perspective you take. So that means on an Earth era basis, are there industries that could be majorly changed simply from the fact that Bill Gates is just pumping his own money back into the world? That could happen. And I'm no expert. You guys are experts in your own fields. You will decide like where this money is going to and how it will affect the world. It's really a lot of money. Now, the second thing here is that on the other hand, it is also a very interesting thing that it may actually start to stress the system such that maybe it starts to solve some of the initial problems, which is why is the guy at the top automatically making money from you? Couldn't give it away even if he tried. Okay, so that's a very interesting thing. And I think on an air era basis, just by him doing this, it will make a lot of people sit up and go like, dang, we kind of have to fix this at a core level. Okay, let's go on. And this was something that he posted right after the announcement, and he put this on Twitter. And I've no doubt that you decide for yourself, does it look like a PR stunt? Okay. And he says this: I have an obligation to return my resources to society in ways that have the greatest impact for reducing suffering and improving lives. If this is not air era, I don't know what it is, guys. And I hope others in positions of great wealth and privilege will step up in this moment too. And, for all the people on the ground who's been screaming for all these billionaires to give their money away, well, he's basically calling for the exact same thing. In my understanding, he's already gotten to Warren Buffett, and Buffett has already given quite a big chunk of his money into the Bill Gates Foundation, and Buffett is already contributing to this. I understand that basically Gates doing this has also inspired Jeff Bezos to do the same. I don't have details on that yet, but you can easily find it out by yourself on the internet. So that means one of the cool things that we will see in the shift of priorities. So it's not just about people toppling governments. It's not just about people going crazy and deciding that we're going to kill some people and leave some people behind. It's not all bad. We also have people who used to be all obsessed about invincibility, dominance, be the number one in the market, kill off everyone else, suddenly changing their minds about what's going on. And you can look for a skeptical, dark agenda behind it. But for those of us who do pay attention to the psychology of people, when he says, I have an obligation to return my resources, I think it is quite sincere. And I think when we talk about the atonement of guilt, I suppose, I'm not Bill Gates and I've never been that rich, but I suppose there's a moment in time where you just sort of sit in your big mansion and then you sort of wonder, how the hell did I get so stinkingly, disgustingly rich, right? What exactly did I do to get here? And if you put yourself in that position for that one moment, there can be guilt. And especially if you go and see how other people are suffering so badly when you have much more money than you will ever spend in a million lifetimes. So this is where I think this is very interesting. And it could be one of the turning points that could actually fix some of the fundamental problems of the Earth era. So maybe that's me being an idealist, right? So that's Bill Gates. You can see from March onwards that there's that atonement of guilt. So that means he is probably going to be doing whatever is necessary to pump even more of his money through the right organizations that's going to send it into good places. And so far from what I see, almost none of those money is going to those things that make those investors rich. Right? It doesn't look like it, at least from my understanding of investments and things like that. Okay. So and another thing is that, what you can see here is that these two planets here in the number 5 house describes that Bill Gates has a natural talent for coming up with things. And the chart suggests that he's an inventor. Of course, today, when we use the industry term of a tech mogul, then we think of it as he's very good at coming up with software. But when we get away from the industry term of a programmer, he essentially is an inventor. And while he may not have invented the toilet itself, but the fact that he's interested in such innovations and inventions that come out of nowhere. Someone said, let's find a way to deal with human poop. And then he went and did it. So when you see this combination here, it actually describes someone who's interested in not just an invention for a concept's sake, but he actually wants to deal with a practical solution. And you can be a skeptic, but the reality is Microsoft became so rich mainly because they did invent a software that genuinely did scratch a very important practical use in the world. And so he was very good at that. And quite legitimately, by the impact that his software had, he did become very rich. But what we see here is that at least for this year, this red line here tells you that he starts to do things that are considered eccentric by society. A lot of people will not understand it, that suddenly he's doing projects that are useful, but doesn't have an ROI. It is not the usual things that people put their money into. So what I see here is that he's actually actively putting community ahead of self-interest. And this starts to ramp up from about 6th of April onwards. He has a very unconventional approach to money management. I'm not a money expert, so maybe some of you financial analysts will read newspapers around that time and go dang, you mean like that also can? You may have never seen a billionaire do things like that with their money. I also don't know because I'm not a money expert, right? And so I suspect that what he's doing may do something very powerful called redefining ROI. a return on investment. Last time it used to be that, oh, I invest in this 12% or 16%, huh? That is the usual way we think of ROI. But perhaps now ROI could be, my guess is it could be defined by how many people are going to benefit from this. Because if I invest in A versus B, same amount of money, but in the B, 1 million people benefit. In the first one, maybe 10,000, let's do B. So it's things like that that will redefine how people use their time, their energy, and their efforts. So it becomes very uncharacteristic behavior for a man who has spent decades of his life building products that maximize financial gain out of his creative products. And I think people are going to be very surprised at some of the things that he's doing. And obviously he will face criticism and skepticism. No one is going to believe that he's really doing this for an altruistic position. So a lot of people look for a sinister agenda. So poor Bill Gates giving away his money and everyone thinks he's a bad guy. So it starts from about May onwards, and the criticism becomes extremely strong by about December and Jan. Now, yesterday I talked about how the world really gets a bit iffy, all right, around the end of the year. And I suppose that if you are investing in certain things, unfortunately, he really got a lot of money, you see, so that when he invests, will it potentially quite a high probability that the money that he puts out there could, in one way or another, intentionally or unintentionally, start to affect some of the events that are happening in the world at the time. And it will be very easy for people to just sort of point back at him and say, if you never go and spend this money, then you won't create this problem. And that kind of stuff is going to happen. Okay, so again, human nature, right? So this is something that I see happening for him. Yeah, so then that's where the skepticism shows up. So as you can see, around this period from about June to October, like this pink color period here, like I said, there's a bit of skepticism, and by the time we get to October, November, it seems like some of his projects will start to like show some results. And then, like I said, in December and Jan, when the world goes iffy, then a lot of people are going to start to trace it back and say that it's him. Maybe he's secretly trying to finance the something war or something along those lines. Okay, so one possibility there. Okay, so that's for Bill Gates. And I think what's very powerful, like I said, it's not just the money. It's the fact that he will be the embodiment of the fact that you can actually do something like that. And people can see the value in a completely new approach to using our resources. Okay, so let me wrap up this bit about the agility. That now, if you start to see the value of this, then some of the first criteria that we need to have is, number one, you need to completely embrace the reality that the world is different now. Because that if there's even a shred of you that thinks that maybe one day we can go back to pre-COVID, then I think we lost the plot already. And I think for someone like Bill Gates to give that money away means that perhaps he has realized that there's just no point in keeping that money around. For what do you need all those billions of dollars? And it's that he's really starting to create projects that what I think are game changers. Okay, so that means don't assume that people will want the same things. And the next thing is that you need to respond quickly and to anticipate what are people's needs and what needs to be done. I know a lot of us are concerned about maybe my job will not exist from a few years from now. Maybe it will be eliminated. Maybe people don't need me anymore, that I will have a salary. So it's in terms of how to maintain your value, then I think a good thing that you should add into your 2023 plan is to maybe anticipate. Now, if May is correct, or it's possible I'm wrong, then you write me email and say, May, you're wrong. Okay, but the thing is, let's just say if I'm correct. And then let's do something a bit more realistic and useful, which is that then what are the needs that people have? What are some of the problems that will come up? And how can you be part of that solution? Okay, and then that's where, and also you don't want to be stuck in the obsolete idea about, okay, this is the tried and tested way. Like, oh, if we want to feed people, then we do it this way because, same way last 30 years. Are there new ways to feed people? Are there new ways to get people to communicate with each other? And that is, depending on what your expertise is, you can absolutely be part of that. And don't have to follow the old rules. Because anyway, the world not following the old rules already. Why would you go and follow the old rules? No one's doing it anymore. Okay, so this is where the agility portion, I can finish with that, okay? So and now it's about 11 o'clock. Okay, let me start off with a few things about your 2023 plan. I made some promises to all of you, okay, that today we are going to take a very robust look at your 2023 plan. And our challenge today is, can we see it from an air era lens rather than an earth era lens? Okay, so there are a few things that I will cover today. I promised you that I will cover 46 timeless industries that will exist in any era. I don't care when it is. Doesn't matter which one you get into, okay, and we're going to see how you can, I'm very sure not just one. In fact, for most of you, you will be able to select multiple of those timeless industries. That is my promise, okay? That's one. And we also want to talk about how then you can collaborate with people, because rowing a sampan by yourself is a little bit scary. And the thing is, it probably is a lot better if you can row with multiple people. And what if you could get involved in multiple sampans at the same time? Like, wouldn't that be nice? Okay. And I'm also going to show 13 very important criteria that when at the end of the day, when you look at your 2023 plan, does it really fulfill any of these 13 criteria? And these 13 criteria is not just about your survival, but it is also about whether it makes you happy. Because even as we want to innovate, right, you have to look at what is really making all these people depressed, then quiet quitting and all that stuff. Like, and can we solve that? And if your plan still has some of the old things that make people miserable, then why are you so silly, right? You might as well change it and do things that are purposeful, do things that are meaningful. Okay, so and let's talk a little bit about why 2023 definitely requires a new plan. And I want to remind all of us that if you look in your plan and it looks a bit similar to the plan from the last 2 years, then you might need some tweaks, because last 2 years was about getting through the pandemic. That means we were trying to make business as usual. Then we were conscious of the interruptions. But if you think about the word interruption, means that it's a temporary thing. There's, temporarily we cannot go shopping more. For how long? A month and a half, then everybody just complain, right? But the thing is, eventually you went back to the shopping mall. So who cares, right? It's over already. But I think in terms of, if you can't see that the strategy for here onwards is different from the COVID survival strategy, then we've got some problems here. Now, if your plan looks suspiciously like your pre-COVID plan, like last time before got such thing called COVID, right? And then it really means that your plan is going to sound a lot like an Earth era plan. And that, again, isn't going to work, because maybe it will be very hard to get people interested to join your Earth era plan and to combine with you or to collaborate with you, because the language that you're speaking may not appeal to people anymore. And it sounds like same old, like, I don't know, it just maybe can make money, but I don't know, that I don't feel very enthused about your plan. Okay, so that becomes a very big problem, because nobody interested in your stuff. Okay, so why it requires a new plan? Number one reason is because March is just around the corner. Today's date is the 29th of Jan. So basically, I said this happens on 24th of March. That's 2 months from now, right? So world gonna change. You need a new plan for 2023. Okay, world mindset and priorities will shift. And when it shifts, guys, it is not an interruption. Whatever happens from March onwards is going to last 20 years, just like the Osama bin Laden period, and just like the financial crash that became after that, everyone obsessed about money for 20 years, right? Basically, whatever's happening this year, everyone going to be obsessed about all those things for the next 20 years. That's how important it is. Okay, then after that, we have the fact that financial markets, the way we know it, is going to be unstable, or at least there's tension. And it means that things don't move the way they did. So big countries, USA, China, Saudi Arabia, possibly even Russia, are going to grapple with, first of all, they all have internal issues, and they will also take the opportunity to start moving a lot of political chess pieces. That means political dynamics will change. And it means that you cannot assume that your plan is the same as 2 years ago, guaranteed. Okay, so this one, number one, I hinted to everyone, I would watch BRICS if I were you. Okay, forget about NATO and forget about European Union. Okay, and also the reality is that job security fears will grow. And this is obvious, isn't it? So as recession looms, as many people cannot hold on the organization, then this is naturally going to happen. And even if it doesn't happen, everybody is still scared. They are wondering when it will happen. So it's like whether it occurs or we are just waiting, it is equally as bad. Okay, so that's another reason why I highly recommend an agility strategy here. Now, a third reason is I haven't covered beyond 2023 yet, but in future webinars, I will cover a lot more of this, that there will be a very, what I call an entrepreneurial period that will come around 205 to 2026. And this entrepreneurial period is not the kind that people are like, bo pian, no choice, then they have to go and like find a way. In fact, it looks like a very enthusiastic period that people are literally creating their own projects. And it's like the way the industrial revolution used to be. There was a period of time of a bit of like a depression, because then people were going to London, and it's like, and people were trying to keep the old king and queen thing going for some time. That it was like a bit depressive, right? And then this funny thing happened where suddenly invention started happening. And people found new ways to make things, and there were new products that made people very excited during the Industrial Revolution. People were building railways and building steamships and things like that, which became very exciting. Now, the same thing is going to happen in our world as well. And it happens as early as 2025 and 2026. And I suspect that's why we have to pay a lot of attention to, and this is not being ageist, it's just being practical, pay attention to what the millennials and the Gen Zs are doing. Because just like in past eras with the Industrial Revolution, who do you think came out with all these steam engines and railways? They're all the young people who are experimenting with stuff that they don't even know what they're experimenting with. And somehow it works, and then before you know it, next new thing that everyone is on already. So that's why you do want to pay attention to what's happening in that space. So the entrepreneurial period will come up. And it doesn't always mean that people are starting businesses. That's why I have it in inverted commas. Entrepreneurial can sometimes mean that people create things out of nothing, and people come together to share their ideas, and they just create things that the world has not seen before, right? And that means if you would like to participate in that, that means you kind of want to be part of that conversation already. You know what I mean? You don't go and wait until people do that. It's like, y'all take all the risks, then okay already, then I go and join. That is a safe zone mentality. And it means that it is not an entrepreneurial mentality. And it also means that the truly entrepreneurial people will not want to work with you, because in a sense, it's about what are you bringing to the table. And in the end, these, like I said, collectivism will show up. So people will get into groups, and that means that you want to be part of the conversations that you want to be part of as soon as you can right now. Okay, and so work trends are going to shift, and some of the extreme things are going to start happening. Great Resignation already happened already. China already bailan and tangping already. So you start to see some of these really extreme work trends coming up. I will highlight more of these work trends that will happen in 2023 later. Okay, so some of the patterns that we see coming up is nearly half of all Gen Z and millennial workers have been doing freelance work in the past year as the Great Resignation continued. And this has been very, very rising, very, very rapidly, especially after the COVID pandemic. But in fact, the article also suggests that these numbers have been rising even before the COVID pandemic, that this idea of like freelancing, the agility model comes very naturally to Gen Z and millennials, possibly because they grew up with a mobile phone in their hand, okay? So that you find that inflation, again, sky high, and people want flexibility. And also the Harvard Business Review also saw, and by the way, look at this is 2018, before COVID pandemic already, that in fact, their survey shows that 9 out of 10 people are actually willing to earn less money to do more meaningful work. So that's a trend that we see coming up, which means that if you want to do more purposeful things, don't be so afraid that people are like, oh yeah, don't know, this one don't make so much money, maybe people don't want to do. I think that is changing. Okay, so that's another positive mindset change that will become even stronger after March. And you want to be part of that conversation, okay? So, but a lot of people will come back to that fear, right? How can I be so sure that what I do, whether I'm an engineer or I'm like an accountant or something else, is it even going to be here or not? Or is it going to be eliminated? And this is the reason why I promised everyone that I studied this, okay? I studied the 46 timeless industries. That means whatever I'm going to show you has existed across all these eras. I don't care you Majapahit or Cleopatra or like during, what was this? Greek and ancient China, you name it, they got it, okay? So here's what you can look forward to as I present this. Number one, that all of these 46 industries will be around long into the air era because they have never disappeared before from the world, and therefore they will not disappear going from earth to air. Doesn't make sense, right? People still need these things. And another one is that all of these industries, beautiful thing is that they can be done with just one person. So that means even if you own self want to get into a sampan and start rowing, you can do so right now, confirm can, right? Or if you prefer to have a small team, then you can do it too. A few people can decide to do the same thing. Why not, right? So fantastic, right? Because in the past, just so you know, MNC is a Earth era invention. That means last time Majapahit Empire don't have MNC, but somehow people still do these 46 timeless industries. So perfectly fine. Okay. Now another one is that all of these can be carried out whether you are a contract employee. So that means you can go to an organization and do this timeless industry and to negotiate it on your terms. That means not as a traditional employee, you can go there and offer it and then people will just take it, right? You can do it as a business owner if you want to. You can do it as a freelancer. All of these are open. You can do in any way you like. And also, all 46 of these are purposeful jobs. Not a single one here are bullshit jobs. Not a single one of these involves filling in forms that no one gives a shit about. Okay, so don't have all these things. All purposeful, useful, and people need it in society. And also, given the fact that we are moving to the air era, if you so choose, you can start it this year. You can start it like this afternoon, right after my summit, if you choose to, right? It is so simple and you can get started already with an internet connection and a mobile phone if you want to. Because I can tell you these 46 industries, 16-year-olds are doing them right now. And 16-year-olds don't have 25 years industry experience. They also don't have $1 million in capital in their bank account. Most of them don't. They just start with a mobile phone and an internet connection. And then you have to start asking yourself, why aren't you not doing that? Okay, so agility thing. So my promise will be fulfilled right after this break. Okay, we are going on a 10-minute break. So if you haven't followed me on my social media channels, please do that. I had some people messaging my team yesterday to ask how can you get some of the previous webinars. Then you should go to my YouTube channel. And guys, I put a lot of effort into my webinars. If you're going to watch, right, can you help me to just like and subscribe a bit? Right? It helps me okay, to get my videos to more people. Okay, just help me do that. Doesn't cost you anything. Just press subscribe and press like. And if you want to, you comment. And basically, my video gets shown to more people. Okay, because don't just take the good stuff for yourself. Just do something small and everyone gets to benefit and use technology to our advantage. Yeah. So follow me. And if you have not followed me on my Telegram channel, you can do so. Just scan the QR code. Okay. So the time now is 11:08. We will take, let's break till 11:18, 10 minutes. Okay. See you guys in a bit. Okay, guys, we are back. And just so I know whether I can go on with my 46 timeless industries, can you all indicate and tell me if you're back? Because just say yes on the group chat, yeah? Whether you're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or you're on Zoom, just so I know, is this so important? I don't want to get started. Then some people still coming back from taking water or something. Okay, thank you for the people who are responding. Let's go on. Okay, so now if you can get started, I would suggest you have a bit like a pen or something that you can sort of take this down. There are 46 of them, so unlikely that you're going to remember this list after I'm done with it, yeah? But I think there are a few things that I really want to cover, and the reason why I have the word industries in inverted commas. Because you think about it, the word industry, it means work. And the word industry is an Earth era word. And that means that the first thing that we have to do is to get away from that word, the word industry. Okay, so guys, if you think about industry, right? Well, this one I talk about it all the time. I call it the drop-down list. You know how when you fill in form, right? When you go on a government website or whatever, then they ask you what industry you're in. Then you press the down arrow, and then it always starts with accounting. Then after that goes with what administration and secretarial, whichever lah. So basically, you scroll up and down the list trying to find that one category that whatever you do fits best with. It gets a bit complicated because as the air era starts to develop, more and more people are going to get careers that don't fit on any of those categories. I can tell you that ever since I became an astrologer for the last 10 years, I've never really been able to fill in this drop-down list very well. I'm not really sure like which category I actually belong to, because there's a wide myriad of things that I actually do, and it's not just astrology, right? So anyway, so that's the first thing that we have to address is this concept of the industry. Okay, because we are going to see like a lot of young people and what they're doing now. I can tell you they all have the same problem, which is how to fill in these things. Yeah. Okay. And another problem with the word industry is that straight away it limits everyone's minds. And I'm well aware that I'm speaking to an audience that has grown up in the Earth era. And that means there's a way in which we think about these timeless industries. And I well know why everybody is very interested in these 46, mainly because what you're interested is what industry will survive. Okay, which ones will die and which ones will survive? And the point of that question, a big problem with that question is the word industry. That you keep thinking about, oh, but then food and beverage will die, man. But the thing is, not all food and beverage will die for obvious reasons. People still need to eat, right? But the thing is, there is a certain thing that will die, but eating food will not die. If you all try to get what I'm saying, right? And it means that if you say that maybe, let's just say, pick something like maybe trains or airlines or whatever is going to die or whatever. But the thing is, people still need transport, right? So that means it's very important to sort of really divorce this idea of the things that people are going to do. My 46 timeless industries have nothing to do with that drop-down list. And I understand that a lot of people are still thinking in this idea of the drop-down list. That one really has to change, right? And the other thing is that because the reason why that industry thing is very scary is that when it comes down to an individual, as you start to imagine what it is that you are going to do next, if you keep asking this question, what career should I choose? The problem is the word career. It's like hairdresser, doctor, in the medicine industry. Should I go into like, I don't know, the YouTube industry? I'm not really sure a YouTube industry is that useful. What if YouTube go bankrupt, then how? Then what? Then where's the industry? Then you die lah. So you see, most people are asking the wrong questions, right? Which means that you should not be asking any of these. And right now, I'm taking all the Earth era, basically this mountain that you have been leaning off for a very long time. And this is something that a lot of the freelancers have started to understand a very, very long time ago, which is that it is not the industry and it's not the career you should choose that is the correct question you should be asking. So let me flesh this out a bit further, right? So that means if we start to think about like, how does this conversation change between the Earth era and the Air era? Okay, and the first thing is let's go and address this word, industries. What do? You go Christmas party, Chinese New Year. Oh, ask your cousin, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm in the something line. I'm in the health line. I'm in the transport logistics line, whatever. Okay, but the thing is, what do I do? Again, always from the drop-down list where we go. Now, in the Air era, we actually want to think of it as a function. And the function is the why. So for example, it's like if you make sick people well. So that means think about the fact that making sick people well is a purpose. So a lot of people ask me things like, why is it that my career feels so purposeless? I feel like there's no impact. But you see, when a person says that what I do as a function is that I make sick people be better. So let's just say there are people who have just recovered from a surgery, and then I make them be better. And then most people think like, they want a healthcare industry. Right? It doesn't have to be healthcare industry. It can also be things like entertainment industry. It can create things that for people to play. If they are trying to learn to walk again after a car accident, then can we create games like, like the Wii thing that used to be like for exercise, right? Does it actually help people who have trouble walking to maybe walk again, to move certain muscles that they hadn't had before? But you could be a game designer. Really? So whoever said that if you want to perform the function of helping car accident victims be able to walk again, you could actually be in the game design industry. So I don't know what rubbish is that, okay? So we think in terms of the function and what purpose do you serve? And that's why a purposeful life is part of this conversation too. Now, another thing is that people want to ask like, oh, okay, so if I do this thing, then where do I work? And most of the time in the Earth era, what they want to know, again, the drop-down list, right? So it's like, where do I work? Which company, so that I know which company to send my resume to. Very Earth era conversation, right? And which means they also want to know, like, so where do I work? Should it be in Thailand, or do you think I should work in Europe or whatever? Earth era conversation, because in the air era, you work wherever you want, right? Because got internet. So the thing is, the where doesn't actually matter. What company also doesn't really matter. In fact, some people do things that serve multiple companies at one go. So this, again, is not a very smart question to ask already. If you're asking all these questions, you might be thinking in the wrong direction. Okay, then instead of asking where you work, then you need to ask about things like the medium. It is the how. So this comes right down to the skills. So that means perhaps your medium is in video. Then you may want to learn video editing. So technically, you could be in healthcare and then have a video editing skill. Why cannot? Because now have already. Okay, or there are people who are very good at carving things. That you can carve like wood and create some design or whatever. Is that a skill? Yes, it's a skill. So you don't ask where you work. You basically ask what do you actually do in order to make that function happen. You could be a game designer, or you could even be the person who goes to organizations like the hospitals and the rehab centers to say, hey, we've got this Wii game that helps people to walk again after car accidents. Like, can we talk about how we can expand this further? We can make our games more fun and more relevant. So that is also a function. And you don't have to be in any industry to make this thing happen. Like anyone literally could do this. Okay, and then another thing that we all addicted to in the Earth era is this thing called the JD, the job description. And we all know what that is. It's a set of bullet points, right? So this job requires you to do this, do this, do this, do this. Everyone knows how this works, right? And the real reason why we have that is, what's my job scope? Whenever you apply for a job on your jobsportal.com or whatever it is, the reason why the Earth era requires a job scope is because the whole thing is a financial transaction, isn't it? So basically, I pay you this amount, then make sure you do this every month. And that transaction in itself means that quite often it's like a contract. So if there's anything that needs to be done outside of that, but then it's not on their bullet point, you ask me to do this thing, but not included, then you find that some people get very resentful, because it's like, yeah, but so maybe if, like, let's just talk about creating that game that you go to a rehab center and then you ask people to basically, what you want to introduce your game so that these people can recover more quickly from their car accident. Now, sometimes it includes that maybe on a weekend, you might actually go there and introduce that to the family members too. That maybe if the whole family does the game together with the person who's recovering, they recover faster. But you see, doing the game for the family on the weekends is not on your bullet point. You never say weekend have to go and help people do all these things. And that's the problem with the work scope, because then it becomes a bit weird that suddenly people are not functioning based on purpose, but they are rather like, but then I'm from this industry. Since when I have to go and organize events for people to go and learn to? I thought we are just helping them recover after a car accident. And well, newsflash, maybe doing that game for the family is part of your work scope. Just that, and then you may ask, then why you never put on the bullet point? Then I'll say, why are you so unagile? So that means, remember, agility is about being able to anticipate what needs, and then we can make changes quickly. So the problem with the work scope is that maybe you got hired 4 years ago, when this thing wasn't required. Or right now, things are happening so fast. You could have been hired 4 weeks ago when this thing wasn't required. Well, it's required now. Right? So the thing is that a lot of the old systems that are existing in terms of the way people think of industries and work is one of the reasons why the frigging Titanic is not turning fast enough, right? And that's why there are all these arguments that are happening within people that is simply, it's like the guy down there, he says, hey, now got iceberg, I think you need to put in more coal. And the fella says, sorry, not in my work scope. I can tell you that's how the Titanic went down, right? So this is, it sounds funny, but it's not funny, okay? So the next thing is then to ask about the execution. So that means the who can I help? And in terms of like the execution basically means on the ground, then how do you actually get people to play the game? How do you go back and get like sort of feedback from people and say that, okay, how can we improve this game? And this is why the air era way of doing things includes a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of agility in terms of like, there's no fixed work scope. Basically, we want to do this. Are you in or are you not in? Simple as that. You want to do or you don't want to do. And then when you come on, you also don't ask questions like, so we do this thing, what's your projection for how much money we will make? How much money do you think we can make out of this? And sometimes the answer is actually we don't really know. But our aim is to make this really relevant and useful. Then after that, when we make sure this is useful, and then after that, we ask people to pay what is reasonable for them to get this outcome. And then for some people who are very earth era, they lose their minds. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how much is going to come out of this? And it's a very strange conversation that will make a lot of people feel very insecure. But this is the way it's going to be. And that's why if we don't change that mindset, it's going to be very, very difficult for a lot of people that they are going to be in anxiety, they are going to be insecure and all the host of other things. Okay. So now, as I go through my 46 timeless industries, there are a few disclaimers, okay? I need to put all these disclaimers because I know exactly how Earth era people think. And if you are going to make the best out of my 46 timeless industries, then there are a few things you must understand, okay? First of all, you will see some astrological references on the screen, and it is human nature to panic and go like, but then I don't know all these things, never mind, no need to know, like this one May will explain, right? But also, some of you have some astrological background. Then some people will start to think too far already, think too complicated. I say, but then I don't have planets in this house, but then this resonates with me. Never mind, forget about your chart for now. Basically, the reason why I'm using these astrological references has nothing to do with your individual chart. I'm simply using these astrological references because astrology is a very, very old modality. It's been around since your Cleopatra time, which means that when I look at these things, it's not about you as an individual. It is about people, humans as a collective. So it doesn't matter whether you have or don't have that planet or that house, take your chart out of the story. I'm talking about humanity and what are the requirements and the needs of humanity as described by astrology as a concept. So nothing to do with you, okay? And then, so the next thing is that don't try to find the industry. Okay, so that means as I go through these things and as people start writing down, then they start to think like, oh, so does that mean that I need to go into the healthcare industry? Forget about that conversation. Start thinking about what is the outcome that you're doing. Don't think about the industry. Now, the next thing that Earth era people try to do is they try to find the one best answer. Now, this kind of mindset comes from the invincibility strategy, because then, I need to focus all my strategy on one thing. Agility is not like that. Watch my hands, right? Agility is like this. So it's like, it's multiple. So that means you don't go and find, but then if I'm in transport, right, then how we help this thing? You can be in transport and still help this problem. Okay, so in the air era, this is absolutely possible. So that means don't find one answer. In fact, as I go through 46, there's a lot of industries. I'll bet that more than 90% of you are going to pick multiple of those answers. And if that happens to you, you got it right. Okay, so that's the idea that we want to actually mix and match quite a lot of things. So don't be afraid if you end up picking 4 or 5, that's fine. You know, that there are different ways to play with it. Okay, and another thing is that most of the time, Earth era people are looking for security. That means, if I do this, then I will earn money. That's the first thing that most people think about. I know it's hard, okay, but the thing is, when you switch into this agility mindset, The purpose of looking for this timeless industry is to remember what I said, is that as the world changes, we are looking at to anticipate what are the needs of people. So that means you must think of yourself as a solution provider. So that means there is a reason why this particular industry or this career or this job has existed for thousands of years, 5,000, 6,000, who cares, right? It's always been there. And it is there because the people who use that service, who engage your services, have a certain need. And therefore, you get paid because you fulfill that need. So that means we want to get away from this idea of go where can make money, go where can survive, and that's coming from a me perspective. Like, I want to tell me what I need to do to survive. And if you come from there, I can tell you one thing, it doesn't make you attractive. That I will choose the person who's serving my needs. I'm not choosing the person who I don't know and you must pay me first. I can tell you it's not attractive at all. And I tell you, people who come from that perspective will become less and less attractive as there are much more attractive options available on the internet and we can choose from the entire world. Okay, so that means you're going to fall off the wayside if you still have that mentality. So think of yourself as for each industry that I share, think about what is the problem and where do you come in to actually solve that problem. And the better you can do it, the better the industry is for you. Okay. Is everyone ready? Okay, good. Okay, so now as I do this, let's play a bit of a game and let's do this together as a community. Okay, so we're going to try this and I think it's going to be awesome. Okay, I never tried before, so we try together. Yeah. Now what you see on the screen here is known as a word cloud. And it means that it is made out of like multiple words, right? And then the bigger the word means more people choose that one. And I think the purpose here is not to find the one best industry. Let's not be very lame about this. But the whole idea of a word cloud that really works is that we're going to see a diversity of answers. Okay, that's what I think is going to happen. So this is where later I'm going to do something, use a bit of like tech and have some fun, right? That we can all contribute to this word cloud. And then we can see, it's like, is it true that there's a diversity of things that we are all capable of? And that when we put it together, it's going to look pretty nice. Okay, so that means as I go through each of these 46 timeless industries, and I will do my job, and your job is to think through each one and to decide which ones really resonate with you. And your challenge is not to pick the one. Don't pick the one that is like, oh, I think do this one can survive, can make money. I would like each person to imagine, just imagine that if you didn't have to make money, just take the Earth era thing out of the way. If you didn't have to, and if you were thinking about how, is there something useful? Are you useful to society or not? And that when I describe this thing, you're thinking that, you know what, I'm quite good at this. I'm naturally good at this. And if I did that, maybe I'll be happier. And your challenge is to get away from your previous career. I don't care how many careers you had in the past, that were Earth era already, that we think about if you could reset the whole thing. And if you went back to the days when you were 16 years old and they gave you an option to choose anything you wanted, again, that means forget about the last 25 years, right? Then what might you have picked? Because right now it's possible that you might have a myriad of options to choose from. You might as well allow yourself that freedom, okay? And this thing is non-consequential. No one is going to remember what you type anyway, right? So let's do that. So as I go along, I'll introduce like a word. So maybe I say if you find that this industry is very attractive to you and if you had a choice, you would do it, then you write down this particular word. So at the end of the 46, you will probably have a list of words in front of you. Then later on, what we do is that, say if you have 5 words, right? Then you type the 5 words into a list and then it will all go on the screen and everybody's words will be on the screen, okay? Everyone good? If this is okay, can you all say yes on the group chat? Just tell me yes if you find that this is interesting and you are willing to participate. Okay, so can you all put yes on the group chat? Just write down whatever words. Okay, and you don't write down now, okay? We go through the industries first. Okay, if you're ready, then I'm going to get started. Okay, so the first one, like I said, ignore the astrological reference. Now, the first timeless industry is called creating a physical experience. So the purpose and the function. Now, what is a physical experience? So it's things like your 5 senses, things like sound, right? If in any situation, like people want to hear things and people want to see things, is the visual, right? And it's also things like the feeling, whether it's cold, whether it's warm, whether it's like people will just lie on a bed and feel like, wow, your bed sheet very nice, right? Or it could even be things like taste. Can we enhance taste? Can we get people into an environment where, wow, they really feel alive? If you can make people float on air, it's like, oh, this is what it's like to be an astronaut. Can you see that I'm in one industry that I'm saying here, it applies to multiple Earth era industries, okay? So that means a physical experience can happen if you're a chef. a physical experience can happen if you're a nurse trying to make an old person feel comfortable on a bed. It can happen in the hotel industry where you make people feel like, wow, this fantastic, like the smell, the aroma is very, very nice. So guys, if this resonates with you, okay, then your word is called physical. Okay, so if this resonates with you, you can write that down. Don't choose everything, guys. Don't choose everything. Like pick the one that you feel that, wow, like really life purpose. Okay, then the second industry is called making things look nice. So we can make things look nice in terms of like home interior design. There's also, looking nice can also be things like text. So maybe your friend writes something and then the language is a bit like not very palatable. Then no, I edit for you so that when people see, then they're not so pissed off, So that's called making things look nice. You can do that on mobile apps. You can do that on websites. Even if you are a chef in a restaurant, maybe the person very good cook, but then when they cook already, then it turn out like this one square blob, right? Looks like not very appetizing. But then if you put in some color, you put in some design, then maybe you take photograph and post on the internet, well, then the dish suddenly look very appetizing. That is called making things look nice. If you're an architect, you can make the building look like, wow, people feel like going in there to shopping. That is called making things look nice. Doesn't matter what earth era industry you're in, some people got this talent. Okay, you want to make things, you think that some things in the world look a bit ugly, and then maybe I'm quite good at making things look nice. I don't care what you do, okay? So next thing is that you can also be what we call the front approach person, the front man. And this is something that obviously I'm that person, right? Because a lot of my work, my own personal work is I'm in front of the camera, I'm on stage a lot. Even in my previous job, I was in safety, but then I was on stage a lot, which is very weird, right? So that's my real industry. I'm very good at being on stage. And also the front person can also be what we call a bit like a receptionist, or the person who is the front man who answers questions. In case there's a crisis, there's a problem, someone has to go out and say, okay, everyone calm down, and I'm here now. Do you have any questions? Please ask me. So that's where the front person is and some people not so talented at this. And those of us with that talent, you want to step up and be that front person. Okay, doesn't matter what industry you're in. Okay, so good, 3 industries, timeless one. I tell you, in Cleopatra time, right, there was that one guy, when she make the rule, then people don't like one, right? Then there's that one guy have to go out explain to people. That one is called front person. You see, that person don't even need to be a politician. Your job is just to go out there, explain to people what's going on, right? And then the next one, let's go. Okay, the second house, the fourth on my list is called managing resources. Okay, so now, of course, you can be very earth era. You can say, oh, manage resources is what? Accountant, financial advisor, can. But think about, you can be a warehouse person. So that means even in the Majapahit Empire, I tell you, they had a warehouse of some sort. Then there was that one guy, he very good at knowing, you ask him, hey, this box, where to put? He tell you where to put. Then if you say, hey, we need this tool, can we have 50 of these tools? He know where to find it. Somehow he just know. And he did not have a name card that says warehouse manager. He don't have, he just do it. Function and purpose. So that's called managing resources. And managing resources is also not just the physical things, that people can manage things like time. People can manage things like manpower. And there's that one guy in the army, you know who I'm talking about. That guy, you go and ask him, hey, we need 5 manpower to go and do this thing. Somehow he find you that 5 manpower. So it doesn't matter you military or you warehouse manager or you are the project manager, it doesn't matter. You go to a team, and that's when you tell them, I'm very good at managing resources. I know exactly what time this thing needs to happen. Don't worry, I deliver to you on time. Done. Okay, that is a timeless industry. Shakespeare era also got people do this. Okay, next one is number 5 on the list is called making resources accessible. Okay, so that means it's like sometimes the warehouse a bit far. So that means a person needs to make sure that when people need the resources, it is available. So that means even in the Alibaba empire, I can tell you that maybe the farmer grow the vegetable very far away. Then there's one guy, he take the camel, then he load all the vegetable onto the camel, then he go to the market there, and he put the vegetable there so that the people in the city can buy the vegetable. This is called making resource available. You do not call yourself logistic industry, no more industry. Just make sure your one function is you do everything in your power, make sure that when people need something, it is there. Okay, so you can do this digitally also. So that means maybe people need certain information or like there's certain resource that they need to find, then waste time, go and look for it. That's check 10,000 websites also cannot find. So can you go and make some resources available and accessible for people? That is an industry that will still be around long into the air era. Okay, ready for number 6? Yeah, so if you like number 4, you write resources. Okay, that's your keyword. I forgot to tell you all the keywords. Then number 5, if you want number 5, you can say accessible. Okay, accessible. That's the keyword. Okay, let's look at number 6. Okay, number 6 is called anticipating the need for resources. So this kind, the first 2, 4 and 5, right? They deal with the resource already there. Then number 6, they deal with the resource don't have yet. Okay, so that means, you know how in the Julius Caesar Empire, right, there was that one guy, he know that we about to fight war. Then he go and sit there and calculate. Then he think that, wow, we need 6,000 men. Then we not enough Maggie mee to feed all these guys. Then he go and tell the king, hey, king, we need 6,000 Maggie mee. Then the king will say, okay, now we go and find the 6,000 Maggie mee. Then that guy, his job is to go and think into the future, what we need, huh? Then it's like, maybe we need to go and find this thing. So in every empire, we need someone like that. So let's just say you're part of a YouTube filming team, and then they want to go and film somewhere in Delhi, in India. Then it's the person who think, hey, wait, we need to apply visa. We need 5 visas for our film crew. Then you go and find the 5 visas. Can you see that? So it's like that in itself is a timeless industry confirm need. Okay, so that means if you are very, very good at this, now this requires the kind of person who a bit kiasu one. They can imagine all the nightmare scenario, like what jialat, we don't have this. Now, if you are naturally talented at this, write this down, your keyword is called anticipating. Anticipating. Some people are super talented at this and they love to do it. In fact, they always volunteer for this position. Okay, next one. Next, another industry. Okay, number 7 is called making complicated things understandable. Okay, so then what this means is like, say you are an accountant, then the P&L sheet, if you're not accountancy trained, you see it's just a sea of numbers. Then it's like, well, I don't understand what is this. So what does it mean to people? Then that's when a person, he create the 3 bullet points. Okay, the 3 most important takeaway is these 3 things, and this is what we need to work on. Done. So basically, it's also things like maybe some technology. Maybe you make EV batteries. Then the connection from one to the other, right? Last time when we in primary school, we never learned this because last time no EV ma. So the thing is, most people do not understand why something is so important. You go and explain to people. And this works for those of us who are subject matter experts. And you know that the public do not understand certain things. And then you go and simplify things for them. Okay. So if this is something that you're quite good at, I know a lot of accountants, lawyers, doctors can be very good at this. Your keyword is called complicated. So that means you're very good at complicated things. I can make it simple for you. Okay, next one. Number 8 is the people who consolidate information. So sometimes one of the big problems with most civilizations as things get very complex is that the information is all over the place. So these guys are basically, they take all the funny things and they put it in one place for you to find. So last time, very, very long time ago, sometime in the Majapahit Empire, then people are writing books. They write on scroll, papyrus and that kind of stuff, right? But then this guy and this guy all over the place have it. Then the king told this guy, hey, too complicated already. Can you go and visit all these guys, take all the papyrus, deliver to the royal library? So that there's this one place that if you all need information, go there and find. Okay, so this is called consolidate. And most of you can do that. Some of you are in industries right now where you find that it's like we don't have one place that people can go. And let's expand this further, okay? Most people will find that in your industry, there probably is already a library. But the thing is, that one is based on the Earth era demarcation of what is useful. I give you an example. Let's talk about a medical library. Now, let's just say that maybe the one in your company is full of drugs information. It's about what are the ways to solve diabetes or whatever. Then it's all pharmaceutical or like medical information. But we're starting to find that more and more information is coming out of like maybe to heal people. It's things like family environment. It's things like meditation. Maybe it could even be specific types of like mind exercises and stuff that could really help people recuperate. The thing is now your library a bit don't have all this information. And in the air era, when we removed all this industry nonsense, right, then you find that no, anything, everything in our power that can make this outcome happen, you go and consolidate. And whoever said that your library has to be the king's library, you can open one in your own house because internet can create library. So a person can do that at any one time to consolidate information. Okay, so if you like this, write down your word is consolidate. Okay, number 9 is to analyze and to interpret the information. So this one is a little bit different from number 7, okay, although they can be combined and they can be related. So analyzing and interpreting is like, especially if you know of things that are a bit not so accessible to people, generally speaking. And it's like what you're sharing is your judgment on what do you see actually happening. So like as an example, a lot of you don't read astrology. So which means that even if I make all my calculations available to you, it's not like you understand the prediction. So what I do is I analyze and then I present it. And I show you also my interpretation of what's happening. So if this appeals to you, you can put analyze. Okay, so that's your keyword. Okay, now we go to the next one. Number 10 is finding new ways to convey a message. So this is where I think most people think of it as communications, PR, media, but it's a lot more than just that. Because sometimes nowadays your t-shirt and what your t-shirt says is also conveying a message. And it means that if you were to watch like a particular movie, but if somebody edit it such that the color change, right? Just the color itself conveys a message. And there are also ways that we can describe things to little children or even to people who do not understand specific concepts. You can convey something by music. You can convey something by storytelling. So there are many ways to do that. Okay, so if you can, if you like this, then yours is called message. Okay, that's your keyword. Okay, let's go on. Okay, number 11 is the ability to translate one language to another. So the obvious one is like translation from like actual human languages, but there's a lot of other things too. It's also things like nowadays we have blockchain. So that means blockchain itself is a language. For me, at least, astrology is a language too. And I translate astrology into English for people. And translation can come in many, many different types of that kind of languages. Okay, so sign language is another. And as we go on to have more diversity, then you'll find that translation can be a powerful thing. So if you like this, write down your word is translation. Okay, some more. Now we have people who do things like transportation and connection. So that means it's like right now we think of it as like you take one MRT line and how to connect to another MRT line. When you make a phone call to somebody, how does this connect to another person? But it's also things like when we are looking things at like transmitting data is a big thing now. And this works for the people who are into more like technical type industries. And your job is to translate like power grid and EV batteries. So there are people who with that kind of knowledge. Now, does it mean that then you have to work for some big Singtel M1 kind of company? Not necessarily. In some other countries, there are very small teams of people who go out to old people who are living in the countryside areas. And these old people do not know how to set up their satellite to get internet, to get electricity. And as cities start to change a bit, like lots of people can get involved with this thing called connection. Okay, so that means you could be a telco guy and there's no rule that says that you cannot work for yourself. And you simply go there and you do connections for people who don't get into the main network. Okay, so that's something you can do. And if this is what you like, you can put connection. Okay, so even things like transportation is another thing that you notice. We tend to think of it as like planes and buses and whatever. But let's just say that in the air era, some of these big MNCs, they don't quite make it, right? Then if that's the case, do people still need to be transported? Yes. And if you realize in human history, at any one time during wartime, for example, in other countries, whenever the main network is down, somehow there's the guy on the bicycle. Somehow there's the guy who has a truck, right, available. Then he can take all the refugees and move them from one place to another. That one is also a role. Transport can be done by 3 guys with a truck. Absolutely possible. Okay, so then think about what are the needs where people do need to do transportation. Okay, so basically your keyword is still connection now. Okay, so you connect people from A to B. Okay, next thing. Now the 4th house includes people who highlight roots, origins, and history. So that means in any empire, whether you are in the Shakespeare empire and somebody writes down the history of the queen, right, and that person has a job. And also, you'll find that nowadays, there's a need to link back to history. I know of someone who created a cafe that is all Peranakan food. So that means, and it's fantastic. This person has gone and studied the recipes of his grandmother and his great-grandmother. He's updated a few things, and his cafe is very nice. It has like a lot of Peranakan art around him, and on the walls there are like little nice stories about famous Peranakan people in Malaysia and in Singapore. I think it's fantastic. So that means his highlight here, and I think his cafe looks a bit like almost like a museum. And a lot of Peranakan people say that when they go there, they really feel like, wow, I didn't realize that my culture is so rich and there was all this history behind it. So in fact, highlighting roots and origins is pretty good. Now, it's not just cultural roots. It is also other things like roots can be even the origin of food. Like a lot of people do not know where their food come from. Like a lot of kids think like chicken is the thing that's on a styrofoam plate, right? But the thing is, chickens come from elsewhere. So there can be a lot of education for people about where does your chocolate come from? Who exactly grows the cocoa beans? And so there are lots of all these things that can really contribute to where things are. We can trace origins of many, many things. Okay, so if this appeals to you guys, and you write down your keyword is called roots. Roots. Okay. Now, another one are people who create warmth and security. So this can be, it can come in many forms. Like you can literally be in security. You can also go to families because a lot of people are concerned that when I go out to work, then my mother cannot walk, then how? So that means how you can create warmth and security is well, don't worry, I'll show up at 2 p.m. every day to make sure that your mother has lunch to eat. And while I'm here, I can take care of all the old people on the same block. Okay, so that again, that is also something. It's like what used to be babysitting, but as the population ages, this could be an actual trait. It's like instead of babysitting, it's like mother sitting. It is necessary and really people need them. So warmth and security can come in terms of like, especially as people are very isolated nowadays. They're working from home. They are not seeing each other. And so that means creating warmth and security can simply be creating activities where to have people realize that you are not alone, you can reach out. And I'm pretty sure that throughout history, during crisis periods, there have been all kinds of people doing similar things. This job will never go out of style. Okay, so if this appeals to you, your keyword is warmth. Okay, warmth. So we go to number 15, is things like family values and support. This also includes like, just now I mentioned the old people thing, but it also includes things like support for mothers, support for children, things like that. And even for teachers to make sure that there's this idea of people can reach out. Okay, so things like family values can be basically getting people to sort of look at, talk to their family members is another thing that can really work for society nowadays. So this one, I would say, can you put family? Okay, this one is your keyword. For if you really feel strongly that this is what I would choose, if I could choose any career, I would choose this. Okay, and then also some people will take care of land and nature. So this climate change thing is really changing stuff. So some people are good with things like soil erosion. Some people are good with planting trees and flowers and things like that. And also sometimes it's also like rebuilding or making sure that the city gets cleaned up, like after it gets messed up and things like that. So making sure that we keep our rainforest around. So there's always someone like that who takes care of the grounds. Even things like landscaping, quite frankly, is a combination of making things look nice and taking care of land and nature. Why cannot combine? You absolutely can combine. Okay, so are these things that you can own self one person do? Yes, you can. You can absolutely do this by yourself. During the pandemic, I know of people who decided to be lawn mowers, and they'll go to all the houses, especially old people who couldn't mow their own lawns, and said, I'll mow your lawn for you. Right? Sometimes it's really that simple. Okay, and then we also have number 17, which is defending. Oh, number 16, the keyword is land. Okay, so that's the keyword. Now, 17 is called defending your people. So that's, of course, the normal way we think about it is that you are a soldier and then you go and join the SAF or whatever. But defending the people can be many, many other things too, right? In most industries, it can also be like, for example, it's like if you talk about people in Hong Kong, yesterday I mentioned that Hong Kong is like in trouble right now. But defending the people can also mean that if you're a lawyer and if somebody is unjustly blamed for some kind of crime or whatever it is, that sometimes having a voice to come back and defend to be that voice of reason can be a way that you defend your people. So that means that if you choose this, then you have to start thinking about what then are the things that people need to be defended from right now. It is also things like human rights and things like that. If it is really important to you, okay? So if this is your thing, you write the word defend. That's your keyword. Okay, let's go on to some more. Okay, now number 18 is for building homes and spaces. So the obvious one is in construction where you're actually building buildings, but that one a bit Earth era. And it could get to a point where you may not need to keep building new buildings, but sometimes building spaces also means like recategorizing, reusing buildings. So even as companies start to empty out from like CBD skyscrapers, do you really need so many skyscrapers that are like 120 stories tall? Who's going to occupy those buildings? So that means if there's all this space available, is there other ways that you can redo the space? Can we start thinking about things like community spaces or ways in which, I don't know, you want to grow vegetables and things like that? Can you get involved with that? Yeah, quite possibly. So that means does that need to have like more people involved? Maybe, right? But this particular trait has never gone out of style. I've never seen any empire where this trait disappeared, right? So if this is for you, then your keyword is homes. Okay, homes is one. Okay, now next one is in the 5th house. Number 19 is helping people have fun to be a kid again. So the obvious ones are things like Disneyland or whatever. But you know, in the Shakespearean era, there were people who wrote plays. There were people who had like carnivals and circus where people could just go there and be a kid and throw things at like something just to earn a prize, or like, so that is also a very important part of a human society. Okay, so that means if this appeals to you, yours is fun, F-U-N. Okay, so fun. Number 20 is people who show their creative product. So like I said, I suppose even in Indonesia at one point there was like wayang kulit, and there were people who do dancing and things like that. But creative product can also be things like maybe you created you use programming and you created something that people could use. That's one. There are also people who write, like I said, you write plays. Nowadays we have cosplay, for example, that you actually do your cosplay, you share it online, and a lot of people who resonate with it will like it. So that a lot of the arts will continue. And creativity is also things like music, and perhaps your music helps people to stay calm or helps people to sort of get excited, things like that. Okay, creative product. Okay, so then this, the keyword is creative. Okay, so the next one, 21, is to give other people a creative platform. So maybe you're not so great at like creating cosplay, but that doesn't mean you can't create a cosplay event. So quite often the guy who sets up the circus is not the circus performer, but he knows how to go and find all these creative people and to put them together and say, I invite you to come and join me on this platform. Okay, so that means these people, and it's not just a creative platform, it's essentially a place where people can show their things. So in a sense, you're a bit of a consolidator. Like there's some similarities here, okay? Now, for these guys, your keyword is platform. Okay, platform. And then number 22 is for the young people. So it's like if you want to develop youth and children. So that means if you find that this can be anything from like helping the wayward children. Maybe people are joining gangs now. And perhaps is there a better way to do this? Now, you know, in the Michelangelo period, it was very common for people to have apprenticeships. And that's how Michelangelo and also people like Da Vinci became so good at their craft work, is because they actually come from families that are not so great. And then what they do is they join these organizations where a mentor actually teaches them how to paint. A craftsman would share his mentorship with these people. And somehow these guys, they end up not joining gangs and they end up making a contribution to society. So it doesn't matter if you're childcare or if you're a primary school teacher or if you're just introducing, I don't know, Korean K-pop dance to a bunch of young kids, right? Whatever works. Okay, so developing youth and children, your keyword is youth. Okay, so that never runs out of style. Okay, then the 6th house, we also have people who create regimes to organize life and work. So this can even be things like a healthcare regime, skincare regime. And what happens if all your big brands, your big MNC, then the skincare are not available already? Like, let's just say it just doesn't end up that way, because in the Earth era, you go to the beauty store, then there's like 1 million of these products, right? And the thing is that thing is going to start disappearing more and more because it's an Earth era thing. So that means, does that mean people no need to wash their face? Does it mean that people no need to do all their regimes? No, but there are many people right now online who are creating things like natural regimes, or it's like, how do you stay disciplined on a day-on-day basis? Also, there's a new system called Notion. Notion is getting very popular. There are many other of these second brain or whatever. So are there people who create regimes that they share with others? Here's how you can organize your work. And these are usually the Marie Kondo kind of people, right? So they show you how to declutter, they show you how to do things and to make your life work. And if you are a personal trainer, gym trainer, then also teaching people how do you stay disciplined with your diet and things like that. Those are all regimes. Okay, so if you like to contribute this, write down your keyword is regime. Okay, regime. Okay, and another one is people who promote health and wellness. So this is different from 23 because health and wellness can be things like is even going to like certain places where people are not healthy, making things available to them. But this can involve education. It can involve things like medication. It can involve like better food or better lifestyle. Going to companies and saying that, okay, everyone's too burned out. Okay, everybody's going to stop and like, we do meditation now. We go for yoga. Come, we all go for a run or a swim. So that's also promoting health and wellness. Okay, is there a role for this person? Yes, because people are very stressed up. And a lot of people are very happy to pay for someone who can show me how to lead a better life and a more healthy life. Okay, so if this appeals to you, can you all put down the word wellness? Okay, wellness is important. Okay, number 25. Are people who make tools that improve productivity and efficiency. So these are different from number 23. Now, 23 are the people who come up with the process. Now, 24 are the people who are more physical. You will actually make something that I can use here. So for example, some people know Thermomix, right? They basically save time, I'm not sure about money, but save time and hassle for a lot of busy people who got no time to cook. So that Thermomix thing is already a tool. So there are many things right now, like even like things like cleanliness, things like, I don't know, get all sorts of things in your industry. Is there a way, as companies are interested in eliminating processes, then can we replace manpower work with certain physical tools that can get the job done, even if no one is there? So it's automated tools and stuff. All these all count also. Okay, so if this appeals to you, your keyword is tools. Okay, so you create tools that people can use. Next one is number 26 is being a professional craftsman. And these people are subject matter experts in using their hands to create something. So these guys, we tend to think of them as like, you know, the guy who do the Ming vase, then he take 3 months to make one vase. That one a bit extreme. But think about Gordon Ramsay. Of course, we think of him as a media personality, but a chef can be a professional craftsman. The sashimi chef who can cut the sashimi in that particular way. So this is different from just providing food, that it is the craft that is behind it. And craftspeople can come in literally any sort of form. There are people who, like the carpenters, for example, are craftsmen. The fellow who can just make the table exactly the way it is. And you know what? Even in the Cleopatra period, the craftsman was a very respected profession and it never goes out of style. So these are the people who work with their hands, okay, and they produce wonderful things. So if this appeals to you, what you do is you put craftsman. Okay, so some of you are like that. Okay, another one, the 7th house. Number 27 is you can be a middleman, a diplomat, or a bridge. Now, this becomes very, very important in the world as people start to not get along with each other. There's a lot of polarization. You say one thing, some people agree, some people say not agree. Some people say that, oh, this guy philanthropist, and other people say this guy dark agenda. So that will always happen, right? You just get used to it, isn't it? But you see, sometimes if it's just opinions, it's fine. But once it gets into a place that's not so nice, and you'll find that even during the Greek Empire, there was that one guy, he very good at going to find the people on the other side. The Greeks and the Romans don't get along, right? So somebody go there and he's basically, hello, I'm here to make some friends, right? And it's like, can I bring some of my Greek food here for the Romans to try? Okay, I give you free food. Okay, but can we sit down and talk properly or not? Can we not fight each other or not? Right? So some of us are very good at that, at being the diplomat. And you can do that in all sorts of things. If you have husband and wife don't get along, can you sit down, get them to sit down? Can you all look at each other in the eye and say that this is very bad for your children? Can you all talk properly, please? Right? So that is diplomat. Some more. Okay, let's go. Number 28 is people who create conversations. So that means you can create platforms where people can have forums. They can discuss that. During the Greek era, there were people who created conversations. People like the Aristotles and you don't have to do philosophical discussions, but it's a place that people can have their voice heard and that people can discuss things. Even in workplace, that some of us can be very good at being that person who come up with the agenda and some points, and then we can all open for discussion. But someone has to lead the discussion. And if you are very good at that, can you write this down? Your keyword is conversations. Number 27, your keyword is diplomat. Okay, so that means what function do you perform in society? I don't care what industry you're in. Okay, now next one, number 29 is the voice of reason. And this one is a bit different from the diplomat. This means that during times of when people are confused and whatever, that essentially what you do is you are the grounded person. And you can say, okay, everybody just be calm, and then let's think of it in this way. Okay, so that means when people are confused, then you basically put things out in a very reasonable way. And this works for you if you are the kind of person who's not very imaginative. And to you, it's, what nonsense is this? No, it comes out this way. So you are the voice of reason, and it's like that. Okay, so if this is you, then you be reason. Okay, and this happens in almost any industry. Okay, so especially if we talk about human rights and maybe the hotel is not very happy, then they ill-treat all the people from third world countries. Somebody has to be the voice of reason in a situation like this. Okay, next, number 30 is people who give great advice. Okay, so that means when a person needs to be in a one-on-one and they come to you and they say, I don't know what to do in this situation. Like, can you help me, please? So this can be, traditionally, these are people who are counselors. They can be coaches. But at the same time, you can also be a business consultant. Perhaps the company is so messed up until maybe we kind of need a person to come in and tell us like, okay, all these people are unhappy. What do you think we can do? And then you go there and say, okay, maybe we can try this and that. Okay, so you can give great advice in just about any situation. Okay, so if that's you, can you put advice? Okay, so that's you. Okay, let's go. I know it's a lot, 46. I promise you're all timeless, all won't die one. Okay, so next one. Okay, number 8 are people who help others to deal with change and to deal with crisis. So this is important because let's just say, okay, let's expand this a bit. Most of the time we think of change and crisis, it could be people who lost their jobs, right? So then if it's mass retrenchment, I know a lot of HR people who really make a special effort to help their workmates who have been laid off. So that means, okay, can we help you maybe find something to tide over first, right? If you're not feeling so good, like maybe we can have a support group or something. So things like, basically you are not the person who does the counseling. You simply make sure that these people are taken care of. Okay, so that's dealing with crisis. If you think about how, like, for example, in the Ukrainian war right now, there are people who deal with refugees also. And refugee is not as simple as you take one lorry, then you just put all the refugees there, then you drive them to another country. It's not as simple as that. It's also about where do they stay? How do they contact their family members? It's like, I'm in distress now, I can't find my husband, right? So things like helping people deal with crisis can be combined. It can be combined with things like transportation. You can help people move from one place to another, right? And also, crisis can also be things like helping to create warmth and security. Can we build homes, temporary homes that house people if they are not in a good place? So things like that, you can combine, guys. Don't just pick one, yeah? Okay, then number 32 can be dealing with things that are taboo or unwanted. So basically all the ugly, shitty things that people don't like on. So if you think about those of us who deal with things like disease, if you deal with things like shit and poo and urine, right? Sorry, that's still a problem in our society. And also things like the unwanted could be also a lot of taboo topics, like perhaps like things like domestic abuse. No one wants to talk about it because it's a shitty topic, right? But someone has to deal with it. So that means if you don't mind, if you're the kind of person who realizes that there's a lot of stuff that's swept under the carpet that no one wants to deal with, if this appeals to you, your keyword is taboo. Okay, so number 31, the keyword is crisis. Okay, taboo. People don't deal with it. Never mind, I volunteer, I do. Okay, so that's number 32. Okay, then number 33 is helping people deal with death. And this one is timeless. In the Cleopatra time, there was that one guy in charge of funeral. I can tell that guy never run out of business on, confirm need on. And death is not just the physical death, not just dealing with the dead body that's there, but it is also things like helping people distribute their money afterwards. And I know nowadays in the Earth era, we think of it as legacy management or all those whatever, then you sign all these documents. I think it's a lot more than that. It's like people who ensure that your things are being taken care of if you die, and also making sure that the people are taken care of. And it's a lot more than just an insurance policy. Who agrees with me that taking care of people after you die is a lot more than signing an insurance policy? It is making sure that agreements are being made and that arrangements are being made. Things like that are important to people since the beginning of time, right? And also that how do you, death is also not like the people mati die, that death can also be dealing with an ending of something. So for example, if there are people for whom, like say their entire country cease to exist, and that may happen, right? It's helping people let go. It's gone. Okay, now we renew ourselves. We have a new thing now. Some people have difficulties dealing with divorce. The fact that they failed once in their marriage, and then it's like, then what, you just sit there and give up on life. That doesn't work. So that means there is a renewal. Help them let go. Right? It's over. It's done. Okay, let's move on to something else. Right? Help them deal with loss. Okay, so that's 32. And if this appeals to you, write down the word death. Okay, so that's what you specialize in, death. Okay, another one. Let's go. 9 house. Number 34 is about sharing your insights, your knowledge, and your studies. So this has been around since forever, right? So basically in the Earth era, we had people in universities who studied biology, social sciences, chemistry, and then they wrote papers, theses, and they go to universities and they get published in nice journals. So that worked very well for the Earth era, and it made humans very, very clever. But I think nowadays it's very common now that people have that blogs or things like that. And even some scientists are actually gone to share their insights. And you can combine this with the earlier one, which is making complicated things easier to understand. So if you happen to be a researcher, you can do it the normal way, which is like you go and publish it in a nice, like, very PhD sort of thesis. But at the same time, it's really helpful if this person is willing to share their knowledge in a more palatable, understandable way. Make it uncomplicated for normal people who are not PhD, right? And if you have a simple YouTube channel, or even share your articles in bullet points, or even like comic strips and things like that, that allow people to understand, like what is subsidence? So a person a scientist who's willing to explain why the city is sinking, I think that's very useful. And if you're a subject matter expert, you can do that too. Sharing your knowledge, you can write books, you can make like video series. Okay, so then these are the insights if you are expert. Okay, so if this is your thing, then can you write down the word insights? So that means you are sharing your studies, okay, insights. Now you could be number 35. These are people who do the broadcasting. So basically, the guy who writes the paper, sometimes he's not very good at publishing. He's not very good at getting 1 million people to come and see this. So some people say, never mind, this one I publish for you, right? So that means I'm very good at posting online. Okay, so that means, come, give me all your material and I will make sure 1 million people see it. Okay, so that means these people have a different, they have a different talent. So if you ask them to write, they cannot write. They say, sorry, this one I don't know. But if you ask me to make a lot of noise, can. This one used to be last time, right? In the Queen Elizabeth era, the first one, right? He's the guy who go out with the megaphone. Okay, announcement, everybody, tomorrow, something. That guy. Okay, so now we got digital version. Okay, this person make a lot of noise. Okay, so this is number 35. And if this appeals to you, you are broadcast. Okay, so that's your strength. Number 36 is the person who upholds ethics and rights. So this is the person who, more than a voice of reason, is the voice of this is not okay. This thing that's happening is not okay. So sometimes they are lawyers, but sometimes you are also an activist. Look at Greta Thunberg. And this is somebody who has essentially made a career for herself from the age of 15, and basically going to the United Nations, going to a lot of these international organizations and telling them this is not okay. This thing that you're doing, I don't agree with it. And the thing is, it's been so powerful, people follow her now. And so the thing is, for many people here who are kind of angry about things that are not okay in the world, and somebody has to say something. Okay, so that means if this is you, then write down yours is ethics. Okay, so that means someone has to speak up. And if it means that you write books, if it means that you go to collectives, and then or you can also be the voice of reason. So that means this is not okay, but can I be the voice of reason and say that, can we do it in a different way? You can combine, okay? So number 37 is that you can share explorations and discoveries. So this one is a bit different from 34, because these guys are, maybe you have traveled to Tibet, and perhaps you have just gone there and, oh my God, like I did not realize that people did this. And maybe you're not a PhD. So number 34 is a bit different, okay? So that one is you actually go and study, and then you like a lot of like that official information. Discoveries are a bit more personal. So maybe you've been to some of the extreme places. You've been to Tibet and you've lived with the camel guy, and then you have gone to basically the ice regions and you sat there with the igloo people, and then you say, wow, I did not realize that they cook food like this, and what does alcohol look like in multiple countries, and you have a YouTube channel about that. That's called sharing your discoveries. Okay, so guys, can you write this down? If this appeals to you, then it's called discoveries. Okay, and if you think about it, like, this is an age-old profession. Like, even people like Marco Polo, for example, from like don't know how many 100 years ago, right? He made his thing from sharing his discoveries. He went there, he took an interest in what other people are doing, and he shared it with people. Okay, so that's very valuable, timeless profession. Okay, another one, number 10 house. Number 38 is called supporting a great leader. So this is where of course, traditionally, we think of it as like, okay, maybe if you join an agency or civil service, then people can do that. But I think it's a lot more than that. Sometimes it's also in a community. It's like, even in the old days, like if you had like a village chief, for example, assuming he's doing a good job, but there's so many things to do, right? So that means he kind of needs people to help him do all the like nini nene stuff, right? And it means that some people are not necessarily a leader themselves, and they have no desire to be a leader, but they're quite happy to see that if someone's got a really good vision, and if you need help here and there to sort of like run things for you, I'll volunteer. I'll do it for you, because I can see you are very tired. We don't want you to tire yourself out, and please let me help. Okay, so that means that doesn't mean that in the air era, you have to go and be like a freelancer or a business leader. Some people need to support the people who need to do bigger things, and that person only has 24 hours. And if you believe in that, you can go and support. Okay, so then if this appeals to you, you can put down leader. I would like to support a great leader. Okay, then just put down 38. Then number 39 is to support people like such as parents. This one is a bit of a different sort of thing. It's like it's not exactly developing the children, the youth, but rather more and more, I think there's a real big problem with parents in the world, because as the population ages, and you find that there are like fewer and fewer children nowadays. And one of the reasons why the world is not producing people. So I'm not saying like go and like pop out children or what lah, but the thing is parents are struggling in a big way across the world. So anything that you can do to help mothers and fathers to sort of manage this idea that we kind of need to take care of like aging parents plus kids plus the work situation, that is very, very valued nowadays. And I know lots and lots of parents would be very happy to pay good money for anything that helps them to solve this problem. Okay, so then if this appeals to you, then write down parents. I care about parents, and I want to find useful things that will help them live life easier. Okay, let's go on now. I'm already at 39 already. Okay, so then we have number 40, which is that you can help to bring things to public attention. So this one is a bit different from the broadcaster. And this thing about public attention can be that it's basically people who escalate things. If you all know what I'm saying, this Earth era word, right? It means that we take things to higher level, and it's the kind of person who goes to authority figures and say, okay, teacher, or maybe even like a Mr. Leader person, I need to tell you this thing. And it means that you start to make this thing a real issue so that we have to deal with it. Okay, so that means if this appeals to you, then please put down attention. So these are the people who go and inform the people in charge that we need to deal with all these things, different from the broadcaster. Broadcaster send it to all the people. Okay, so this one, attention, 40. Okay, then number 41 is people who support not specifically a leader, but you can support an organization, a club, or a community. So these kinds can be, I suppose if you are not really the leader kind, somebody needs to sweep the floor, somebody needs to prepare like the papers, some people need to be the one to inform the WhatsApp, inform all the members like what's going on. If you do like a newsletter, for example, that just lets everyone know, hey guys, we've got a few of these activities coming up, who wants to join? But someone have to write the thing, right? Someone have to send it out to people. So you can combine that with even the broadcaster. I'm the person who posts on the Instagram group like, hey guys, like, can you all go and join this thing? So that's called supporting an organization, a club, or a community. Okay, so for you, your keyword is, just put club first. Can we put club? Okay. I have to make up these keywords along the way. I didn't think of it beforehand. Okay. So, okay, next one. Okay, 42 is helping people build a collective identity. Okay, why this is important is because, like I said, collectivism will show up. people will start to like break up into groups and things like that, whether is it LGBTQ, or maybe you're from maybe a more indigenous tribe, or perhaps it's like a community of mothers who are trying to change something about the education system, let's just say. So it's like somebody needs to stand up to help the identity of people, because it gets confusing after a while already. It's like, then everyone is like splitting up or changing the way that we are redefining ourselves. Then someone has to help with that identity. Okay, so if this appeals to you, then write down the word identity. Okay, I want to make sure that people understand who we are and how we can proceed in the following years. Okay, so that's 42. Now, number 43 are people who provide the alternative perspective. So that these guys are often the people who challenge the existing perspective, and they kind of like, it's a bit like devil's advocate, you know. So it's like when something comes up, then their idea is like, let's just purposely provide the alternative view just for the sake of looking at it. So for example, I know someone who has a blog, and what he does is he takes some of these common knowledge thing, and then he decides to do a bit of his own thinking in terms of, okay, if this is accurate, then what? But then if we look at it from another perspective, if you were this kind of people, then this is a very bad idea. You know what I mean? So it's a bit philosophical, but at the same time, it allows people to see the full story. And you can combine this. You can combine it with the guy who anticipates a need. So how is it that you might know that, hey, maybe we're going to need this thing? It's because he looked at it from the opposite perspective. He said, hey, maybe we are missing something. Okay, so in the air era, thinking is one of the big things. It's not about just how much money we make or what work we do, but rather, is there a human actually thinking to anticipate things? Because, you know, now we got ChatGPT, right? Which means that this kind of thinking is the kind that the AI cannot do. This one is human thinking. And therefore, number 43 is important, because even in a group, sometimes there's group think, and everybody echo chamber, they all say the same thing. So if everyone say that, oh, I think Japanese people are very bad, for example, I'm making stuff up, right? Then another person will say, hey, wait, maybe Japanese people not so bad. You know, it's you can combine this with voice of reason also. Okay, so that 43 is alternative. Okay, write this down if this really appeals to you. Okay, then last few already. Okay, number 12 house, 44 is the people who care for the helpless, the broken, and the abandoned. Okay, so that means this one doesn't always mean that the common ones are orphanage, old folks home, prison, hospital, hospice, asylum. These are the normal ones. But the profession that remains here is that we always assume that these are the people who very jialat, then cannot pay. Then if I do this, sure die. But I can tell it's not the case, okay? Even CEOs get depressed. Everyone knows that CEOs get depressed. So as long as you're helping people with things like mental health, things like depression, also things like broken can also include, like, for example, the Ukrainian refugees. There will be lots and lots of people who get into a space where it's not great. So that means, is there a way to help those people? And helping can be financial, it can be in terms of like the emotional help, psychological help, all sorts of things. Okay, even animals, if animals are being ill-treated, things like that, all included. Okay, so then number 44, the keyword is helpless. Helpless is the keyword. Okay, then number 45 is creating avenues for people to connect spiritually. So this one includes those of you who do things like spiritual healing, if you do things like meditation, even if you are religious. And it's basically helping people to connect and to feel that there is support on a spiritual level. This one, timeless. Basically, Cleopatra had it, Majapahit have it, they all have it. Okay? So this one is spiritual. And let me explain why it is so important to separate industry away from function. Because guys, I'm an astrologer. Technically, right, if you go by industry norm, I'm supposed to be in this category, help people to connect spiritually. But I don't resonate with this. I don't sit there, ask you all to look at planet, then connect to the planet. I really don't. I'm much more interested in taking a complicated thing and making it simple for on the ground, so people understand what this thing is about. So basically, I don't care about industry. I know what my function is, and it's not helping people to connect spiritually. Not my thing. Someone else will do this. Okay. So then another thing is number 46 is the last one. It is to provide rest, acceptance, and renewal for a lot of people. So that means it's creating a place or a state or some kind of environment that people can just stop and rest, give yourself a break. And this means that you can create a spa. This means that you can go to like a a resort somewhere that is a sustainable resort so that people go there and do like very peaceful things just to get themselves to accept a situation also. Like, for example, I said like agility is about accepting the reality of what's happening in the world. Some people go to struggle with it. So that means, is there things that you can do? Music to help people realize that, oh, you know, we can accept this, and then we can have a renewal. Okay, this thing. So if this is appealing to you, your keyword is renewal. Okay, so guys, 46. I did this super monologue, okay? And I really think through, and I kept my promise, right? Every single one of these things have existed for all of humanity. There isn't a single thing here that is a bullshit job. That means if you're looking for purpose that useful to society one, like, is there anything here we don't need one? Anyone feel that we don't need? Like 200 years from now, we don't need one? Nonsense, I tell you, right? So which means if there is a need in the world, and if you fulfill that need, don't give me this rubbish that there's no job for you. There will always be a job, and there will always be people who will pay for this because it is so essential to the world. And this means that just because it exists does not mean that MNC continue. Because can all of these things happen without MNC? Yes, it can. Can all of this happen even if you don't have a boss to report to? Yes. Right. Can all of this be done as a freelancer? Yes. Can all of this be started very simply by gathering 2 or 3 people, going on the internet, just work a bit harder for 2-3 months? Can we get something started? Yes, can. Right. So the next time someone come and tell me that, oh, I don't know what to do in the era, I tell you, I got 46 years, surely you can pick one, right? Okay, so this very important. Okay, so are you ready? Not you all have your list of words. Okay, so each person should have. I hope you didn't end up with like 20 words. Okay, if you have 20 words, it means that you're a bit indecisive and you have no focus in your life. Now, if you only have 1 or 2, that's cool. Like I said, you can combine that. But most of you, I would guess, may have ended up with about 4 or 5. Now, if you have more than 4 or 5, I would like to suggest that maybe you relook it and be quite realistic. Okay, so that means you got 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. You got to be quite realistic about what you can and cannot do. And quite a few people, even as you add in your agility strategy for 2023, you probably still have a full-time job or a business to run. Okay, so that means this might be something that you start on a side hustle. Don't be crazy. Okay, try to do smaller things and be honest with yourself. Some of those things maybe you are not so passionate about. Okay, then you can eliminate them. Okay, so guys, are you ready? You do the sound, this word cloud. Okay, I think this is very fun. I'm very excited about this. Okay, so if you are ready, you grab your mobile phone, and what you do is you scan the QR code so that we can all get onto this platform, right? So you scan this QR code, and my guys are going to be posting a link so that in case you got problem with the QR code, you can click link up to you, whichever one you want to do. Okay, so grab this. Okay, everyone good? If you're ready, right? Everyone ready? Okay, if you miss the QR code, you just click link. Okay, then come, let's go. Okay, so start putting in the words that are on your list. What functions do you want to perform in society? Okay, and separate each entry. Don't write one shot. Okay, so that means you write one word, then you press enter, then you add one more. Okay, just keep going. And to make this work, you all try to spell correctly so that then all the correct words can together. You spell wrongly, then after that, we get a lot of different words. Okay, brilliant, keep going, come. So it's okay for each person to have 4, maybe 5, and maybe to get, let's get a bit of diversity going on. Wow, this is very nice. Okay, I see things like wellness, things that look nice. Okay, yep, people who are interested in broadcasting, people who want to manage resources. Nice. Okay, a lot of analysis. Come on, some more. Really? So few only. Come on, let's get on some more. Okay, each person can type more than one. And you have to be honest. Okay, which are the ones that really appeal to you, that is, maybe some of you still thinking, maybe you got like 20 words, then you are jialat, so many, right? Yeah, it's a really, really good practice to start thinking about why do you do what you do. Don't just pick something because I need a job. Then I need to fill in that drop down list. What are the most purposeless things I've ever heard in my life, right? Okay, very nice. Okay, I see people who want to be that front approach person. Yeah, why not? If you are confident and you can speak to people, then you play that role for everyone else who doesn't dare to speak up, right? And then people want to do alternative viewpoints. I like that. Okay, and then I see that there are people who want to do things like connections, that you are quite good at connecting, say, websites to Zapier, to back-end systems. That is cool too. We need people like that. Okay, and you make things accessible, you consolidate. Anything else? Okay, I see some people going to spirituality. I see wellness. People want to do good advice. Okay, very nice. Anybody here into family values? You start to see like, the thing a bit change. Nobody into family values. Nobody want to build homes, spaces. Huh? Okay, I mean, some of you are putting on the chat. Don't put on chat, like don't put on chat. Like put on the word cloud, Yeah, just click on the, or maybe you all cannot get the link already. Is it okay? Can my team post the link again in case some people missed it? Okay, I see. Okay, so guys, just pause there. My team has just informed me that the poll is full already. Okay, so I hope this was fun, guys. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, what seems to be a really big thing, right? Okay, so it seems like a lot of people want to make complicated things very simple, and I think that's great, because if it's an era thing, I think if it's too complicated and people don't understand, we can't take action because no one knows what to do. Okay, so that's fantastic. I see a lot of people are interested in alternative viewpoint, and that's great. The only thing I would say is, as far as we have alternative viewpoints, we also need people who are the voice of reason. Okay, because that's why if those of you tried to key in and you didn't get a chance because the thing was full, right? Voice of reason needs to balance alternative. If not, we're going to get people fighting like crazy on forums, right? And then we also have people who are into wellness and spirituality. That one definitely a trend now because Earth era forgot about these things. And that's why, as part of the innovation that we are going through, we are just trying to desperately solve the problems that the Earth era created, burnout, depression, and all that stuff. Okay, and I see a lot of people who want to deal with the creative thing to get more attention, advice. I think that's great. Okay, so guys, what I'm trying to do with this word cloud is that look at the diversity that's here. And it's like we got 200 over people on the Zoom, and I think we have more people on Facebook and on YouTube, just the people who are watching live right now. And the thing is, if all these people somehow found a way to sort of like get into the ecosystem, it is actually not a disaster at all. If things don't operate the same way, because in the Cleopatra time, we had all of this. In the Shakespeare time, we had all of this. There's no reason why all these intelligent people can't find a way to still keep our services going, even though some of the old structure different. Never mind lah, do it in a new way. Okay, so I hope you had fun with this. Who likes this? Right? Who likes this? Just say yes. Right? I think it's for me. I think it's very fun. Okay, so okay, let's ask a very Earth era question. Okay, so awesome, right? So there are all these people who can do all the weird things. And then in the air era, do we still charge for our work? Because the way May say is like, don't do things for money, right? Then like that house, yeah, I still need to eat. Then all these people charging me for their service, I need money to pay them, right? And then the big question that I'm going to ask you is this one important. All these people get paid for their service. So that means when you were Michelangelo, then you go and build like church and you are very talented, then you go and architect build for people, right? Got money or not? Got, right? Then the thing is, you work in the Napoleon era, then you go and be soldier, defend your people, got salary or not? Got, right? So basically, everyone got paid. Literally, you just throw a dart at any of these people. Some of them got paid in vegetable. Some of them got paid in salt. Some people got paid in tulips. Some people were paid in like shells. Doesn't matter what they're paid with. Nowadays, you want to get paid by Bitcoin also can. Whatever it is that you want to collect, right? The point is, everyone gets paid. So basically, the concept of getting paid has been there since the beginning of human history. Cannot be you do good things, then no one pay, right? And if no one pay, it means that what you do is quite lousy, right? I mean, as a consumer yourself, if it's lousy, then you don't feel like paying, right? But if it's very good, then you're happy to pay. What you need it, then you're happy to pay, right? So this has never changed, and it will not change in the air era. Now, what will change is that people do things without a purpose. That means they are broadcasting stuff for nothing else than to make money. That means they are doing broadcasting, but they don't even know what they are broadcasting. Is your message useful or not? Does it help people or not? Don't care, just keep posting because make money. It's like, so this is the part that is the Earth era thing that we are eliminating, is this idea of doing things for no reason, purposeless, no meaning, just do it to make money. And that is what does not work. So what you see here is that I've asked all of you to redefine what you do by virtue of the purpose that you perform in society. Okay, so now to wrap this little exercise up is that to think about this industry thing, okay, so I cannot emphasize enough, you must remove this idea away from your plans if you're trying to transition your career. The reason why the word industry will hold you back is because this word was created in the Earth era for governance, taxation, and regulation purpose. So that they will say all the people in this industry must follow this rule. All the people here must pay this tax. That's the whole point. It's just to regulate people. There's nothing wrong with that. It worked for many years. The problem is it was never designed for you to be purposeful. Then people kind of forgot why they are doing this for society. And so the problem is for each person, whether you are the boss, you are the freelancer or the employee, you end up becoming a worker ant. And if you look at the way we look at society now, when you see those economics report, those financial report, every single one of us is just a production unit. And that is why words like productivity, GDP, have you done a good job? No one cares whether you are a nice person. All they cared about was GDP. So the thing was, this becomes the issue when we have not appreciated any other purpose in life besides how much money did you make last year. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get at. And you find that the word industry actually takes away creativity and individual contribution. And the word industry norm, okay, if I were you, I would cancel this word away from my vocabulary from now on. It doesn't apply in the air era. Because the thing about industry norm is why, if you know how some people, they really hate it, like at Mooncake Festival, right? Then they're a bit obligated to send you mooncake. Then they're a bit obligated to like buy things for you at Chinese New Year if they happen to be, say, a property agent or an insurance agent. Actually, you don't believe in it, but then you kind of feel like a bit funny if you never do because everyone is doing it. So everyone's doing industry norm. So if you don't do, it's funny, right? And there are things, of course, I'm making one example, but in your industry, there are some damn stupid thing that everyone does because it's industry norm. No one challenge it, which is really damn stupid. So then you start questioning some of those things, and maybe in your plan, you could be, how about if I don't do this thing? Maybe that immediately makes you happier already. And also things like industry norm can be very restrictive. I know a lot of doctors who are forced to prescribe certain drugs, certain kind of healing methodologies because it is the industry norm. And because by virtue of the fact that they belong to a specific industry, they are not allowed to prescribe other things. Of course, that's just doctor, but for many of us, it's the same thing. We know of other solutions, other ways that we can solve this problem, but your hands are tied behind your back. By virtue of the fact that you belong to this industry, you were not allowed to propose something that was alternative. That doesn't work in the air era. So that means people need to speak up and say that I know we've been doing this for the last 100 years, but maybe we can try something else, right? Don't stick to that. And also the problem with industry is that if you look on the right-hand side, all these picture, all these industries there, let's just say if you're from banking and finance, and then suddenly I ask you to move to education, childcare, and training, straight away people say that, wow, I don't think so. I think very hard to switch industry. What kind of nonsense is that Earth era thing? So that means whether or not are you going to be a good childcare teacher, let me tell you what's important. Do you know how to take care of kids? Do you care about their education? Are you able to sit down, think through what is it that a child needs to learn from this stage to this stage? Are you able to design the course, execute the course, inform the parents what's going on? If you can do all of these things, does it really matter? And in fact, is it possible that a banker today can be an excellent childcare teacher, possibly better than some of the existing childcare teachers? If you all agree, show some sign, please, that you agree with me. Are there people who would be excellent, right? And the thing is, why is it that they don't change profession? It's because industry norm law, then you need to go through this and that, whatever, I don't know. Okay, I know of some very good people who are very good with children who are nowhere near the childcare industry, but they would be excellent if they were. And why did they not join the childcare industry? Because 16 years ago, they filled in a form in a polytechnic application thing that said banking and finance. After that, they went into a prison called banking and finance and they could never leave, right? So the thing is, the problem is there's no agility. You cannot switch between functions and you can't switch between mediums, and everyone is stuck. So the thing is, if you want agility, let's forget about industry. Okay, and I know it's easier said than done. This needs to come from the ground. It will not come from your boss. It will not. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about collaboration in the air era, because much as all of you have selected the function that you want to do, but the thing is, doing it by yourself can be a bit tricky. So let's talk a little bit about how we can do this. And I introduced this idea that when you talk about function, I repeat, function is what was your purpose in doing this? For what you are doing this? Who will benefit from it? Okay, so then when you did function, you understand that already. This immediately make your life purposeful so that you don't waste your time doing things that doesn't meet the function. The second thing is the medium. Then Are you doing it in the beauty industry? Are you not industry? Okay. Are you doing this by creating cosmetics? Are you doing this by decorations? Are you doing this by growing vegetable? So this is called the medium. And then the execution means that, okay, if we grow vegetables, what vegetable we grow, where we grow, who are the people involved? Maybe, oh shit, we don't have this expertise. Can we find someone who got this expertise? Can you see? So that execution is the details, what we actually do, when we do it, where we do it. But the medium is the how. And the function is, why are we even doing this, right? So then you don't go and do it because I need a job. We do it because it helps society. Okay, then within the function, medium, execution, here's what I propose. Within a team, how you collaborate is you can mix and match. And you will need to mix and match. So that because if everyone have the same function, medium, execution, then you might as well clone yourself, right? So that's not very useful in an era. So let me show you an example of something like that, how it can work. So this is just a hypothetical example of a YouTuber. And this is one I understand very well. Because right now you're looking at this screen and you see me on the screen. But what you don't realize is that I got 4 people, invisible people behind me. I've got 2 sitting to my left. I've got one in Kajang in Malaysia right now. And I've got another one in Penang right now. I literally have 4 invisible people while I'm in front of the camera right now. Okay, so that means, of course, using this simple example, how then can these 5 people work together? So let me show you. Let's just say this guy, he's the star of the YouTube channel, right? And what he does is his function is discovery. So he goes to all the weird places in the world, like in Tibet and in the igloo people. And his intention is to share what he discovered with people. Like, hey, this is cool. Then his medium, the how he does it, technically he can write a book, right? Or he can even like go to universities and share his discovery, but he decided not to. He decided to do this by creative media production. Okay, and then he's got 2 more guys on his team. And these are the guys in the front. They are the sound guy and there is the video guy. So these guys, why are they there? Maybe they don't really care about the igloo and the Tibet thing. Maybe it's not their thing. But what they care about is this idea that I will give you the best picture quality. I will give you the best sound. So even if we are out into the wild, in the open space, I'll make sure that the wind doesn't interfere with your microphone. Okay, so these guys, I call them professional craftsmen. That means why they are there is to make sure picture and sound quality are the best, and the medium that they've chosen is creative media production. Okay, so think about that. Now we got another 2 more guys on the team, and maybe they're not so talented when it comes to sound and picture quality. But this guy with the headphone at the back, now his job is connection. So what he's very good at is this wire and this wire got connect or not. Then when we record, does the Wi-Fi still work? And like, are we getting a signal? And the thing is, after we have all these files ready, are they all automatically put into our cloud system? Right? Do we have an automation system to make sure that the file is being saved and things like that? So this guy, a technical guy, okay, and his medium, technically he can go and be in the telecom industry, right? But he has chosen to be with a YouTube crew. That means he has chosen the medium of a creative media production. But can this guy have the agility to go somewhere else? Can he now go to an event that's being held for looking after like abandoned animals or whatever, SPCA? Then he can go there and set up cameras for people and make sure that everything is connected. So can he do, within 1 week, can he do many, many different mediums and things like that? Can he serve Gordon Ramsay tomorrow? Absolutely can. Okay, so that means you can take your skills and serve 10 people per week if you want to. Now, another thing is this guy at the bottom here. He's totally not part of this YouTube thing, I can tell you that. He doesn't know anything about sound, or he doesn't know anything about all these Tibet things. His only job there is to manage resources. Make sure that you buggers get here on time. Okay, then if we are going to Tibet to film something, we need 5 visas, right? So he makes sure the visas are there. It just happens that since he's there, right, then need someone to hold something. Okay, I volunteer that, I help you to hold, right? And so he don't mind. But his real job is to make sure that after we finish filming, because guys, we are in the middle of nowhere. There's no Wi-Fi here, right? And that means he has to beforehand make sure that the lorry will come by 5 p.m. so that we can get out of here, boys. If not, we're going to be stuck sitting here in the desert until the next weekend. Okay, so the thing is, he will make sure of all these things. And for now, he's in the creative media production. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow he can't go to an old folks home and do the exact same thing for the old folks home crew. Because what he does is, my job is to make sure, my function in society is to make sure resources are being used correctly. I don't care what industry I'm in or who I'm working with. He can change team tomorrow and that works too. Okay, so this is why this entire team here is very powerful. because each person knows exactly why they're there. And here's the magic thing. No one is there because their boss say they have to be there. No one is there because it's like it's an obligation that you sign contract, bopian must go there. No, not at all. They are actually there because this is what I do. This is how I contribute to society, and they're all happy to be there. And let's just say if they enjoy working with each other, then the next time the guy with the beard, right, he will WhatsApp there and say, "Hey guys, let's go to Timbuktu next, and let's go and film the indigenous people there. Are you on?" Then the guy said, yep. Then he said, "Guys, can we meet in the Timbuktu airport at like 13th of April at 5 p.m? Okay, see you. Then they all from different country, and who cares? They all show up in Timbuktu and they all film. So basically, this is how the air era is going to be. It's that people decide that you want to be part of a production, and that works. So this example are people who have, at that moment, they've chosen the same medium. But the thing is, can people with the same function still work together if the medium is different? Okay, let me show you an example. So this one is I found a picture online that I'm making a story. Yeah, okay, so just so you all know, these are not like real stories. Okay, let's just say here, we have 3 people here. You can start off with somebody who is maybe not so tech savvy. Maybe she's older and she don't know about all these mobile app and whatever. But you see the lady in the middle happens to be a professional craftsman. She's a chef and she's very good at coming up with recipes. But at the same time, there's a part of her that as she gets older, her function has moved. So originally she spent 30 years working in a kitchen, producing good meals. But now as she gets older, maybe she gets more concerned about health and wellness, because she realized that as people get older, they have a lot of diseases. This one cannot eat, that one cannot eat. And now they are very sian because the meals are very boring. And she's starting to get very passionate about, no, I think that you can still eat healthily and still have very good quality food. So now she's decided to have 2 functions. I promote wellness and I'm a professional craftsman. And what she does here is that her medium is to find ways to convey this message. And what she does is she produces recipes. So she's very good at writing it out, and she's not tech savvy. So she take pen and paper and write out in Chinese. Okay. So then the problem is right now, non-Chinese speakers do not understand her recipe. Okay. So that's a problem. And that means, and sometimes when she don't have the context, maybe her 2 daughters might be able to be her collaborators. So then you might have one daughter who also cares very much about promoting wellness. And it's like the whole family this is what their passion is. And you might find that the older daughter could be quite well educated. She's very eloquent, she's very pretty, she's very confident. And then even in her job, she's the front person. She's the one who is doing presentation, and she has a full-time job doing that, sales presentations. And in fact, because she's so comfortable in front of an audience and a camera, she's decided, I will be the front person. So I will be the one doing like the recipes together with the mother. She's the one presenting it in the pictures and on the videos. And it's not her recipe. And if you ask her to come up with the recipe, she don't know, and she's not a cook. But the thing is, the mother gives her the recipes. Okay, and then you can have the other daughter who is not necessarily so eloquent. This is somebody, again, she's with the family and we promote wellness together. And for her, she's creative media production. She's much, and the other 2 are like not so tech savvy. Right? Even the front person, she's not that good with technology. But the other daughter is good with animation. She knows how to put everything onto a simple digital platform and to make it translatable so that even older people can see, and there are different ways in which you can interact with it. And she also creates a payment gateway so that if you like our recipes and if you think that you want to go further, and together something as simple as this can be started like within the weekend. It literally can be started with a mobile phone and an internet connection. It gets started, and after that, it slowly builds up. Maybe afterwards, they can look for more collaborators who can produce these meals in little bento sets or something that can be sent out to people. And it's a very simple business. And is it wrong for them to make money from this? I don't think so. Because if you are not so well and your food sucks, right? Basically, would you subscribe to this? I think a lot of people would. And what this means is that but then again, so they make money, right? So then you ask me, is it Earth era? Well, I would say, go ask them, is your work purposeful? Does it contribute something to society? And they say, yes. Are you doing things that is your natural strength? Does it ever feel like you wake up, then you, walao, I have to go and write this another episode, I hate this. Do they do that? No. In fact, they're all thinking all the time about, hey, can this thing very popular now? Do you think we can do a series on like this particular ingredient so that more people can use this ingredient? Or maybe now we've got the news that this particular ingredient not available in the supermarkets. Let's find an alternative, and then we teach people how to cook with this alternative thing. Can we do that? So that's agility. Can you see within 1 week, all the recipes change? Within 1 week, it's like, hey, then the creative media production person say, hey, click on this to figure out how you can use an alternative vegetable to cook this same thing. It's like, it's fantastic. And do they continue making a living? Yes, they do. Okay, so this is the really powerful part of this kind of collaboration. And you don't need an MNC behind you. You don't need a few $1 million. Internet connection, good enough. And 2 or 3 people who want the same thing. Okay, this is how you get into a collaboration. Okay, so let's so basically the concept is that I know this is not the best moral concept as a matter of a heist team, but I found this online and I thought it was very useful. And these are the tropes that come with what we call a heist. So if you watch a lot of Hollywood movies, right, and what you have is a team like that, and each person has a role. So the person who's very good at like stealing things is a thief lah, and then the guy who's very good with the internet stuff, with the hacking is the hacker. The guy with the brain is the mastermind. The guy with the big muscle is the hitter. And the very good looking one who's very eloquent is the grifter. So yes, they're all criminals. But what I'm saying here is that it's also one way when we say, are you my partner in crime? And it's kind of like a team of people who each have a very individual role. They all know why they're there. The team doesn't function as well without that one person. And the magic thing is that each person has to know why you're there, your purpose, and you are doing the thing that is natural to you. So that means the hitter doesn't suddenly go and be the mastermind. It doesn't work. And even if you pay him $1 million or so, he still cannot be the mastermind. He just don't have, it's not his style. So that means the problem with the Earth era is that 16 years ago, if you fill in the form, go poly or whatever, and you fill in the wrong thing, you might have put yourself into the wrong role. Maybe you are a hitter by nature. Then you ended up being like the hacker and you really hate IT. You hate programming. You hate all this code that you have to type into it every day. Is like, wow, just screw off, right? And so the thing is, maybe that person needs to be in a Muay Thai space, teach people how to box, teach people how to be strong. And then if that's you, then that's you. You just have to be really honest about it. And in the air era, you can release yourself from that place that you probably shouldn't have been in the first place because the Earth era got it wrong. Okay, so then here, now we get into how then do you find meaning when your current job feels quite meaningless? Probably because it is being locked up into this very Earth era structure. And then, so I wanted to share this with you about a survey that was done by the Cato Institute. This was done before the pandemic. And they asked all these people, like, do you agree? How far do you agree, strongly disagree that your life is meaningful? So they found all these people who strongly agree that their life is meaningful. So why am I sharing this with you is so that if all these people who say their life is meaningful have these certain answers, it gives us some clues as to how then you can have a more meaningful and purposeful life in the air era. Okay, let's look at this. So apparently all the people who said strongly agree, they agreed that hard work is its own reward. That means it's not even about how much they're being paid. It's the fact that I did this thing and it's good stuff. And that to me is already like, whoa, and they found their work meaningful. Okay, and then that they had strong belief in a personal agency is that I do this because I choose to do it. And I do it in the way that makes sense to me. Okay, and these are the people who are meaningful. Okay, and then we also have people who emphasize high personal responsibility. More than 2/3 say, I need to be responsible. And that means that they are not the people waiting for their government or their boss to, don't know, boss never provide. So what to do? I provide, right? And here's the weird thing. Yes, you provide. That's the whole point. You provide. And that is, and you find that when there is no personal responsibility, then all we end up with is complaints and wondering why I was not given something. Okay, and then also there's high compassion. That means, and this is very useful in the air era, because if you are going to perform that function, do you even know what people need? Have you put yourself in their shoes and thought from that perspective at this point, with this thing going on, what do people need right now? Okay, guys, get your team and everybody just go and fulfill that particular need. And that makes you relevant in a minute by minute, hour by hour basis, not by quarter basis. That one Earth era already. Okay, and then you also have low envy. That means they don't look at other people and say, wow, you're very talented, huh? Then what to do? I was very unlucky. Last time my parents never sent me to university. You're so lucky to have such exposure. And you find that that's an excuse, isn't it? Why is it that you're not exposed? The internet is there. go expose yourself to whatever it is that you need to go and be exposed to, right? And then also, that there's very low resentment for high achievers. That in fact, there's more admiration. It's more like, hey, this person is doing really well. And let's go and figure out what's working for them. And maybe we can take some good stuff and then we can start to incorporate into what we do as well. And it sounds like plain common sense knowledge, right? But you know what they say about how common sense is very often not common sense. And it's like how many people actually do the opposite. And if you find yourself doing the opposite, then I can tell you that's why your life has no meaning. And this is a thing of big concern, because recently, even in China, this tangping and lying flat essentially means that people are very resentful of the fact that some people are doing very well, other people are not. Then angry lah, lie down lah, don't do anything lah, and as if that's going to solve your problem. And worryingly, some of these people can be quite young. They are in their 20s, and then they are deciding that, I decided I'm not going to work hard. And that means once that removes itself, there's no longer any purpose in life. The English version, by the way, is called quiet quitting. And those of you who are not familiar with the term, it's defined as doing the minimum requirements of one job, putting in no more time, effort, enthusiasm than is absolutely necessary. Basically, they do whatever is necessary just to not get fired. And then basically just don't care lah. It's like, it's fine, I don't need a promotion. This is not about a promotion for you. It's like, do you even know why you're there? Besides just sitting there waiting for the clock to just go off, right? Just so that you get your money. That is one reason why I think personally that depression is going up, because personal agency is not there. So I want to say that in case the forecast makes people feel very like down and like forget it, give up, I would say quiet quitting is the worst thing that we can do right now, because you then literally become dead weight in the organization. And what I've shown you is that teams get smaller and smaller. And that means each person becomes a real expert in their own right. And every single person on that team delivers at the highest level. And what this means is what happens when a person becomes dead weight. Then you realize that companies and organizations around the world, as they start to automate and stuff, they will start to cut all the dead weight. And that means if you are fearful that you're going to lose your job, I guarantee you're going to lose your job. It makes sense, right? And also it results in you feeling meaningless, purposeless, and depressed. And on top of that, it becomes very toxic also. Because these guys make no effort to work with anyone. They will never reach out to a person and say, hey, I got this idea. Like, you want to get involved? Because I think you have a skill that we could really use on our team. I think you'd be fantastic. So you don't do that. You don't reach out to people. And the worst thing is then no one wants to work with you either, because you have nothing to contribute to a team. Why do I want dead weight on my team anyway? Right? So, and also, these guys, they have rejected all the strategies that I mentioned. They are not doing invincibility. They're not trying to even get a promotion. They're not fighting for anything. There's no innovation. They don't sit around thinking, hey, we have a problem and how to solve. They are not doing that. There's also no agility, because they don't have any interest in switching between mediums and functions, because they just want to stay in one place and lepak, right? So then, and the thing is, their one and only strategy is a half version of the safe zone. And the thing is, they will lose the safe zone very quickly. Now, the reason why is very simple. So let me show you this survey, which I thought was very illuminating. So YouGov did a survey of a bunch of Gen Z students. So a lot of these people are still in school. So you don't have to worry. I will highlight the important ones, okay? Now, more than half of the students surveyed, 54.5%, expect to do a job that doesn't exist yet. So the job doesn't exist. And that means that's why the drop-down list is very scary. Because I tell you, I've been doing like this kind of work for the last 10 years, helping people find the thing that is natural to them. And you know, I'll be honest with you, 90% of the people who actually find that purposeful job, right, then they laugh. Every time I talk about the drop-down list, they will laugh. You know why? It's not on the list. Purposeful jobs are not on that list, which is the damn weird thing. And this is why, as the young people start to realize that the job doesn't exist, and you realize just now with the exercise that we did, with the function, and you can mix and match the functions, is because when you mix it, you realize suddenly that industry disappeared. Like there isn't, you are skipping between industries, and I suspect that is what's going to happen. Okay, and Gen Z has known that for a long time. And you also see that when these young people were being asked what drives their job selection, when you have a choice of jobs, number one is contribution, followed by work-life balance, and compensation was the last. It is not that salary is not important. It's like what the Harvard Business Review discovered. 90% want purpose, not more so than money. And then, so basically this is really, really true. And I want to show you some real examples. I remember that when I first started learning astrology, this chap showed up, okay, and his name is Jeremy Tan. And at the time when he showed up, he was only about 22, maybe 23 years old. And Jeremy was in NUS at the time. So at the time I thought, okay, young punk, right? And then he showed up and he talked a bit about his desire to do something that was more contribution to society. And I thought, okay, so what are you going to do after graduation? Then he looked down and then he's like, I think I'm going to go be a digital marketer. And when we asked why, he says, yeah, I guess my family is not super rich and I kind of do need to make some money first. So this is the reality for most of us. And that's how it's all started, even for a young person like Jeremy, that he needed to do that first. So the thing is, when he came to the astrology class, there were a few things that he discovered, right, that made him a little bit more suspicious of the original decision to do digital marketing. And he discovered a few things, like, for example, that he was very good at seeing the dark side in people, and that people were not always super nice inside, and they were very afraid to show people their true self because then they thought people would reject them. And then he also discovered that he was very into spirituality, and he had a soft spot for the people who were broken. So I'm not sure if he's watching this. I'm not watching the audience list, but if Jeremy was involved in that word cloud just now, I suspect some of the words he would have picked are things like voice of reason. He would have picked things like helping the people who are broken, because these guys are struggling. They're not going to work properly and they feel bad about themselves when they wake up in the morning. And I think then what happened very interestingly was that about 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, Jeremy left the digital marketing industry. And that was maybe about a year after he completed my program. And so he actively got himself into a place where from a side hustle became his full-time job. And then he moved into, at first, a one-on-one sort of coaching with a lot of people. He was dealing with trauma and purpose. And then after that, another indicator he saw in his chart was that he was very good at community. And I remember speaking with him just last year. And I asked him, what's next for you, Jeremy? And he says, I think community. It's like one-on-one was great and it's very intimate, but I realized that I want to expand this. I need more people to do this and to have the community support each other. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. And that's exactly what he did. So he went and created, he's moving a lot more into a community-oriented space. And yeah, it's like, I'm really proud of this guy. And so he came in at a mere 22, 23, and in a very short time, he's really managed to build something for himself. And guys, he did it by himself. All he started with was one website that he asked someone to help him do because he's not very good at this. And he also created an IG account that he has maintained on his own for the most part. And of course, now that he's been doing it for a while, he's getting some help now with more collaborators and things like that. And I'm sure he's getting more collaborators as he goes along. So this is a good example of someone who's like a millennial Gen Z sort of thing, and how they can do something like that with very, very little resources, because Jeremy does not come from a rich family. Okay, so now, and this is his website and what he does, right? And I don't mind showing these things to you guys because I need you to see that some people have done it. And he used to be in digital marketing, selling people SEO programs and that kind of stuff, very earth era, right? And so you find that more than 44% of the Gen Z are saying that I would rather be unemployed than to do a job that I don't love. And this is very different from what used to be. It's like, even you don't like, then your mother say, don't care whether you like or not, you better stay in it because you need money. And it's like what we do in return for that money, okay? And also you find that 38% of the Gen Z have said that they would rather be self-employed compared to, but there are also 40% who would still prefer to work for a company, but 38% entrepreneurs is something like what I told you in 25 and 26, year 2025 and year 2026, an entrepreneurial wave is going to rise. And this survey was done by YouGov in 2019, and that's already 4 years ago. So those were students, university students, and if 38% of them want to start businesses, that's a way higher percentage than what people used to do. And they also surveyed, this is just last year, that CNBC surveyed, and it seems that 60% of teens want to launch their own businesses instead of working in regular jobs. So guys, 2025, 2026 is just another 2, maybe 3 years from now. These guys are getting into their 20 years old. They are getting to 22, 23. They will be another Jeremy Tan. They will, even if they went into a business, in very short time, they will leave. and they will all start their own businesses, and they will do so on the internet because they can do so with a mobile phone and one internet connection. And this is going to be a real trend as we go along. Okay, and so this is another example. This is Sing Hong, and Sing Hong is not Sing Hong is she'll always be a little girl to me, because when I first met her, she was about 23 years old, and she was very early into her coaching business, and she was doing some relationship coaching for ladies, high flyer ladies who want to find boyfriend, but they don't really know how to put themselves out there. They didn't want to look desperate and things like that, and they don't know how to do this very simple thing. So when I first met her, she was trying to feel her way around. And it was only afterwards, later on, I discovered that she was actually an accountancy graduate. So she's from Malaysia. She graduated in one of the really good universities, and she had a first-class honors in accountancy. And like most people, can you imagine if you're her parents, that you would have thought like, go be an accountant and have go join a Big Four, Price Waterhouse or whatever thing, right? But she didn't want to. Unlike Jeremy, she didn't even bother with the full-time job. She straight away went into starting her own business. And what I heard was that she only had very, very, very little money in her bank account when she started. And she was like, never mind, like anyhow. So she went online, she started doing her YouTube videos. And the thing was, it started growing. And you'll be thinking, why would women out there listen to a very young woman about how to date? But you see, this girl is no ordinary person. With her natural strengths. So what her chart shows is that she has two things. One is that she, as an authority figure, she can talk sense, and it's really voice of reason. And she also has an ability to produce a regime that people can follow. So that means, what do you do step by step? What are some of the things you can straight away incorporate into your life so that you put yourself out there to be available to meet people in a way that is healthy and it incorporates with your belief system? And she created that from an age of 23, 24. I've seen the system and I'm impressed by it. And so this is what she offers to people out there. And that's why people who are much older than her, 10 years older than her, 15 years older than her, they're following her now. And they join her systems, they pay for her coaching because she's really that good. And so the thing is, it's that natural strength. And where does that structured thinking come from? It is the same skill that got her the first-class honors in accountancy. And this is what I mean by the agility. Because it is not the industry that binds her, it is what she's able to do. So what is her function in life is to put out information in this very step-by-step organized manner. Who cares whether you're an accountant or a relationship coach? And to her, what she's driven by is function and purpose, which is that it matters to me that women out there have the confidence to put themselves out there. So today, Sing Hong she's started a collaboration with her husband, and together they run their YouTube channel. They are very young, by the way. They're still only about 26 years old. And they've now started now they have 46,000 subscribers. Some of their videos in 6 months, can you see this is a video that was published in August last year, 40,000 views. Sing Hong has clients that come from multiple countries in the world, and everything is done online. She doesn't even need an office. She's never had one, and she never will have an office. So this is a very agility era sort of system here. Right? And the thing is it that these guys are struggling? No. In fact, Sing Hong and Ellen have bought their home. They have a car, right? They got married a couple of years ago, and everything's going good. They have money for dogs now. They have pets at home. Even Jeremy Tan I understand Jeremy Tan is getting married too. Jeremy Tan is also getting a home. So is it that these people starve and die, and it's like, oh, like the old days when people say, you naughty kids, I don't want to get a job. They didn't get a job. And if you ask me, they're doing as well or potentially even better than some of the kids who have gone the conventional route. Okay, and so the thing is, here's the truth here. Okay, companies are going to have trouble hiring new blood because these talented kids, they're not going to join your companies, especially for very classic Earth era jobs. And the thing is, if what you want is for them to sit at the laptop and to do the 9 to 5 thing, very, very few people will want to do that job anymore. And what this actually means is that companies will have to automate, because these guys, you keep putting out ad, then all these people don't answer the ad, right? So now you have to automate, or they take complicated things and they simplify, or better still, eliminate the thing altogether. Why must do? No need do, just eliminate, cancel. So the thing is, that's why I say that in your plan, this is something that you have to look at, because like it or not, you're going to find it really, really hard to have people come in and join some of the more old-fashioned Titanic systems. And this also means that there will be fewer jobs across the board. Because as companies start to eliminate and remove all these things, then we won't need so many workers already. What? So even if you try to apply, there will be no jobs available for you to apply. Okay, and this, even the Boston Consulting Group have identified even before the pandemic that the new freelancers are where the talent is going. And they started to realize that last time people used to freelance because you were lousy and you couldn't get a job. Now it's the other way around. That means it's like if you were very good at what you do, you became a freelancer and the talent is moving freelance. And you find that Financial Post suggested, even during the pandemic, that freelancers are now earning over 70% more than workers with the traditional jobs. So it's no longer true that freelancers are struggling. In fact, it's very, very clear it's going the other way. So which is why I put to all of you here that in your 2023 plan that you're looking at for yourself, that genuinely talented people will increasingly choose to be self-employed because the internet makes things easy and the opportunities are really abundant now. And you find that then you have the freedom to choose the purposeful, interesting projects. And that's a big problem that we see in the Earth era now, right? That is that people feel that my projects are like whatever, like you don't care about it. And you get to choose who you work with. So no more complaints about your workmates and things like that because you don't like that, you just don't do it. Basically, freelancer. And then they are also agile, so they can switch between functions and mediums. You're not linked to one project. You can do 10 in a week if you can handle it. And also that it aligns with your beliefs. Whether do you actually care about the project that you do? Okay, and then also you get to do your best work. A lot of people complain about how as an employee, there's a certain system that you kind of stuck, right? So even if you were very good at something, you didn't get to showcase it. And that means if you wanted to do photography in this really weird way, you do it in your weird way. And most people look at it and go, wow, this is really unique. But if you went and take pictures in a media company, they'll say, you do it this way, follow the system. And what's more important is if they're genuinely talented, the fact is they earn more. Okay, so that's a pattern that we will see. And this means, okay, let's extrapolate further. What's going to happen in 2023 and beyond is that eventually that all the people who remain in traditional employment as a pattern, logically, you will tend to be older. So that means a lot of the young people, they don't want to work in the office. So you walk into the office and everybody there is geriatric, you know. And then also if you have a job, then you end up with the less interesting, less purposeful projects because quite frankly, they become the projects that the freelancers don't want to do. And that means someone got to do it, right? Which means that the full-time employee will kena the project. And you also get stuck in your specific work scope and systems that look suspiciously like the job description or the bullet points that's there. You also are perceived to be not very good at what you do. Because along the way, you find that people who are very good at what they do, they already go freelance. Or maybe you can say, but then no, like, I'm quite good at what I do. Then I would say that it is perceived that you are not confident that you are good at what you do. And also that you are probably the people who care more about financial security than purposeful work. That means between money and purpose, they choose money. And also because of the need for the salary security, then they end up actually being underpaid. Because it's like, and if people want a guarantee, it's like, I don't care what happens to the project, I want to be paid no matter what, then okay, you can get a contract like that, but we're going to take a bit off the top. So that means eventually your so-called job security is just going to be undermined and undermined and undermined. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but this then is the truth because the agility model is the new model and safe zone is totally not workable in the air era. So I want you to compare this, right? So if you think about how even yourself to work with the people whom I just described versus if you find a lot of the freelance type people, they are generally younger or at least they are young in their mindset. So that means they're very dynamic and they know what needs to be changed at any moment and they don't complain about the changes. So they also invest in their own cutting edge equipment, their knowledge and their skills. And this is like, it's actually very telling because I'd be very honest with you. Sometimes when, I've done this for 10 years, right? And we occasionally get people who come and inquire about our courses. Then every now and then we get someone who asks, can claim skills future? Then and for us, we know that when they ask that, they are 100% guaranteed to be an employee because it's a concept of how if I will only go and get myself trained in something if the company is paying for it or if the government is paying for it. And what it comes down to is sometimes there is a reluctance to invest in your own equipment, your own knowledge. And quite often it's like, I will do this, but can claim from company, I think company should pay for this. And this is a very Earth era concept. And what you find is a lot of freelancers, they will invest in their own things. That means a videographer will have the best equipment. He will pay whatever is necessary. He will import the thing from another country if necessary, because he has pride. I want to make a very, very good video, so I will have the best camera. Things like that. And they also, you find that a lot of this kind of bullshit training will disappear because the freelancers, it costs them time, money, and effort to go and attend a training course. So if they go and attend something, they know very clear, this will make me better. And there's no hesitation about this. But you find that when most people are like, do this one got points now, can clock my professional points now. And then you know, very likely, they don't even care about whether the training is good or not. They're just clocking points and like fulfilling, ticking boxes, that's all. And also, you find that freelancers tend to do above average or what I call excellent work, because they need to have sustainability. And that means that if you want to be renewed, if you want people to contact you again, you will do better work. And so that means they tend to do better work than the people who are just collecting a salary. And they're also happier workmates. So when you work with them, remember the picture I showed you with the YouTube crew, right? They're happier workmates, like fist bump, right? Because they chose to be there. They're not there because their boss assigned them there. They choose to be on that project. And also they dare to charge more but only because they are very confident, I'm good at this, I will deliver. And that means they raise their prices so that they get better customers. And then they also don't gripe about working on weekends. That's another very earth era thing. The idea of the Monday to Friday and that weekends are off, like you don't touch your employees on weekends. And I know there's been a lot of talk about that, but really go speak to anyone you know who's really a fantastic freelancer, and you will find that their schedule does not operate on a Monday to Friday thing. In fact, working on weekends is super common. It's not an issue for them. And sometimes they meet at odd hours. And in fact, they're very grateful if someone is willing to meet at odd hours, because they'll tell, I have this thing that I need to do by 4 p.m. Like, is it okay if we meet at 11 p.m.? And the other guy said, yeah, you know what? That works for me too. Okay, high five. Then I'll meet you at 11 p.m. And then when they come on, they go like, wow, tough day. Yeah, tough day, but come, let's talk about this. That's what freelancers are really like. And it's very agile. It's very air era. And you consider how a lot of people will grab in, what? 11 p.m.? Sorry, I knock off at what time? That's earth era. Okay, then my question is, for each person, yes, and that they bring very unique, multi-dimensional tools. Just because someone is a doctor doesn't mean that they are not a very good chef at the same time. And why not? You can combine all your different skills, and you can really only do that if you're a freelancer. And that is what a freelancer is able to offer on a multi-dimensional level. Okay, and that means the question is then, who would you rather work with? If you compare the two, I think it's a no-brainer. So that means in terms of the attractiveness of who starts to become more valuable, okay, if I may use an earth era term, in the air era, it starts to become clear who becomes less and less valuable and who becomes more and more valuable. And this becomes the truth here. Okay, so I just wanted to share like a real life experience that I have working with a freelancer. And this is Tracy B. And I met her on a freelance portal. I was looking for a ghostwriter. So this is a big confession. Now, a lot of the articles that you see coming from me, and I work with this lady, and she's not an astrologer, but she's a professional writer. And when I met her, we took to each other immediately. I have great respect for the way she works, and I believe she has great respect for the way I work as well. And I have to say here, she's not my student, but because she writes my articles, then Tracy has had to learn astrology from me as well, in her own ways. And my experience with Tracy is fantastic. And that's why I can tell you that working with freelancers is really, truly one of the great things that will rise in the future. Tracy has never missed a deadline. And on top of that, in terms of her chart also, it's like a lot of the things that really align, I believe, with her beliefs is that she also cares about things like mental health, making sure that people understand kind of like the dark side, the psychology behind people. And that's why she really enjoys the research that she does for the articles that she writes for me. And there's something that Tracy, I don't know if she knows this, but she's very good at resource management. So that means she doesn't just write the articles for me. She's actively always thinking about how we can expand things, how we can make things more useful, more practical. And she's not just trying to do things that makes more money. She's thinking about how can we make this topic and say it in such a way that people understand it better. I love working with Tracy. And I want to show you all some proof. That can you see that this is an email that I received from her 2 days ago, and she wrote to my team. She says, I've added an article here. It's a post that I put together from a few YouTube videos where May talks about the benefits and insights of PA. And I think this is a good post for this week to promote the summit that's coming up this weekend. And then she actually wrote the article already. And then she put it on a Google Doc and she sent it to us. I want to tell you something, okay? I did not ask her to do this. I didn't ask her to go to my YouTube channel and watch all those myriad and hundreds and hundreds of videos to try and find something useful. She did this on her own time. And this is over and above what I'm actually paying her to do. And so the thing was, and the article is fantastic. She really did go and find a different angle. And there she's also thinking about, oh, there's a summit this weekend. Let's try to use this to get more people to come. And this is what Tracy is doing. And let me show you now. Yesterday, I was also presenting my summit live. And we took this screenshot from when I was actually presenting on Zoom. And if you look at the chat here, she actually said something that, so Tracy is actually one of the participants in my summit. I didn't ask her to come and sign up for the summit. She did it of her own accord. And here's what she said to the host and the panelists. She said, definitely getting some great ideas already. Love the why copy and paste strategies don't work anymore as a great writing topic. So she came to my summit, maybe because she herself was interested in my topic, but I tell you, she doesn't stop. She's always constantly thinking about, okay, how can we convey this better? Like, that's a great concept. Let's find ways to write it so that more people understand what May is saying. It's fantastic, guys. And this is not even, she's not on the clock, guys. And it's not like she do this, then she get extra money and nothing like that. But I can tell you what's happened. I've been so impressed by her work ethic that I've introduced her to other people I know who are looking for writers. And right now she's writing a book for two of my good friends. And I've got another friend who runs a happiness company who teaches people how to be happy. And I know that she's already looking at writing articles together with Tracy as well. Why would Tracy ever run out of business? In fact, I think very soon she's going to come to a point where she has so many people writing and calling her that she's like, okay, wait, I have to prioritize and I have to pick my customers already. Tracy does so much better as a freelancer than she ever would as an employee. And I'm very sure that she picks and chooses her projects and look at the passion and the interest that she has. And this is why I really want to emphasize like how important it is that people really look into that. So I'm aware that I have overrun by a bit, but please guys, stay with me, okay? Because what I'm going to show you is, let's look at how to assess your 2023 plan. Okay, and I promised yesterday that we are going to look at your plan, and I promise you 13 things that you can use to brutally look at your plan and to be honest with yourself. Is your plan simply a continuation of your Earth era goals, beliefs, and also things that have kept you very locked in and not agile, okay, in your 2023 plan? And what is it that you really do need to do? Okay, and I will make this quicker, okay? So these are the 13 things. And these are, I think, the common mistakes that if you see any of these things happening, then your plan may not be robust enough for your plans. Okay, so there are 4 pillars here. One is about working with your natural strengths, whether you are working with your community and your context, whether you are serving current society's needs, and are you really keeping to your own self-definition and purpose? Okay, so the first one is that you don't use your natural strengths. So if you look into your plan, how much of your natural strengths, people say, I want to be the front person. I want to make complicated things simple for people. Or I'm very good at being the voice of reason. How much of it is in your 2023 plan? Or is most of it based on the skills? Second one is, are you also forcing yourself to learn skills that will make you employable, even if they are not your strengths? And this is why collaboration is so important. Because if something is not your strength, you're not a programmer, don't try to be a programmer. Because the thing is, how good do you think you will be in 6 months if you really suck at this? Isn't it better if you find a way to work with a programmer? And that's why collaboration is a major thing in the AI era. Now, another thing is that a lot of people want more knowledge, more info, more wealth to feel good enough. And this one comes from an Earth era thing of trying to compare with people and feel that and some of it comes from the envy. Remember, it's like when you look at someone else and it's like, oh, that person has PhD, so I need PhD. And I can always tell, it's like, if you say that, oh, I need master's degree, for what? Does it make you a better social scientist? Or does it just make you feel nicer that you have it on your portfolio, on your resume? So notice how much of the things that happen in your 2023 plan could be about looking good rather than actually making you better and more valuable. Okay, one more is that a lot of people are not working with the current resources to get immediate and useful outcomes. And what I mean by that is a lot of people feel like they need to get investor money. I need lots and lots of people to give me money. I need millions of dollars. And I don't think that's true. In the air era, you find that things can start from a very small space. As long as you start thinking about how you can scale the benefit of it up rather than the Earth era scale of numbers and things like that. A good idea is a good idea, and one good idea can benefit a million people. So it's thinking in a different way. And also, I think a lot of times the plan is too big. You are not getting immediate useful outcomes. People are thinking about like Nobel Peace Prize. They are thinking about like Oscar-winning productions. And I think that's maybe making things a bit hard for yourself. Think about what you can do to help 20 people, 30 people. You don't have to go for 2,000 people at a go. And quite often it is driven by ego. You just want to go on Instagram and say, hey guys, we helped 2,000 people today. Sometimes helping 15 people is pretty good for this month. You know what I'm saying? And if it's 15 people, we can get started now. 15 people benefit today. And we don't have to wait 5 years to maybe get 2,000 people. Do it now. Okay. And also when it comes to community and context, look at your plan, and does it involve hanging out only with people who are just like you? If you're an engineer, you only hang out with engineers. If you're a woman, you only hang out with women. If you're a mother, you only hang out with mothers. And that means that there's no diversity here. And it can easily feel that all the people around you have the exactly same skills as you, and no wonder it is hard to collaborate. Okay, which means what might be lacking is that you don't have activities on your 2023 plan that allows you to diversify your circle. Are you actively going out to meet other people who may have completely different skills from you, but who want to be on the same function as you? Whoever said that an IT person and a chef cannot come together to promote wellness? You see, so this is why a lot of people feel very stuck, and you get stuck in what I call industry norm. So that if all the people you know do the same thing as you, then no wonder your brain doesn't go beyond the normal scope of what you can do. Okay, let's go on. And also that, do your projects actually improve the world? Because a lot of it is about survivability. So we don't do this, then we die. And I'm thinking that sometimes it's not very enthused, when we just do things to survive, then best case scenario is you don't die, which is not very enthused, right? But can you pick things that actually move the needle just to get people into a better space? Okay, that is really, really important. Okay. And then also that your activities don't actually help the people you care about. So that I've seen a lot of people who want to start projects because, so why you choose this project is, because for this one, we can get government funding. And if I look at it and I listen to what their purpose is, and I tell them, actually, you want to help old people, right? Why are you doing a project that is dealing with like all these professionals? These are not old people. And they go, because this one got funding. I'm like, no, I'm like, it's like, and at the end of the year, is that another year of feeling like I wanted to make a difference. And why is it that I don't feel that I made a difference? It's because the people you wanted to help are not on your plan. So be very clear who you want to benefit. Are they on your plan or not? Okay. And another thing is to take, it's an Earth era thing, is to take a consumer's mindset. So that means you end up wanting to build something because you yourself want to enjoy it, you want to consume it. And the problem with a consumer's mindset is that, first of all you think about is, I want to buy something. I want this to be available so that I can buy it. And this is why it's a vicious cycle. Because when a person is always thinking about what they want to buy, I want to buy a yacht, I want to buy a third property, a fourth property. And then it automatically goes to the next thing, which is, oh shit, I need money. Then you end up, all your activities are driven by how can we make more money? And then it's like, so all the benefit disappear already. All we care about now is to make money so I can buy the things that I want to buy. And it's psychological, okay? You guys, I'm a psychological astrologer, okay? And then, so what then is missing is what we call a producer's mindset. And that's why I make everybody do the function exercise just now, because then it puts you in the space of what do you need to build so that other people can enjoy the benefits. Because you see, when other people benefit, you get paid. So that means there's a reason why a lot of these freelancers actually don't worry about money, is because they produce things, not necessarily what they would buy, but they produce things that people need. So they always get paid, and people are always calling them like, I need you on the team, So this is very important, because it's a mindset thing that goes from earth to air. That means your plan should probably have a lot less of what you want to buy, but rather more of what you want to produce. Okay. And then with regard to self-definition, is that, are you making yourself unhappy and very, very stressed if you force yourself to work with low or lousy standards? So these standards can be ethical standards, they can be financial standards. And why is it that this is so lousy? And that's why at the end of the year, you don't feel that what you created was quality. And that means a lot of elimination is required. So if certain people, certain projects, certain like environments are, I'm sure we can do better than this. And then what you do is you simply replace it as soon as you can. So that means the idea is to why you need high standards is because we want to see results here. Okay, now another thing is that you may feel that you have to choose money first or purpose first. And some people tell me, oh, it's like Bill Gates, right? It must be very rich, billionaire, then we can do good things. So that one is like, I don't know when you're going to be as rich as Bill Gates, probably never, right? And then there's other people who are very idealistic. They tell me, mate, I'm very inspired by what you say about Air Era. I will quit my job. I will have no salary, no income. Then I want to go and help all these broken people. And my question to them is, how long you think you can do this? They say, never mind, purpose first. No, wait, you need to eat. Unless you tell me you do purpose, then you don't need eat, don't need pay rent, right? So that makes no sense, guys. So having to choose between purpose or money first is like asking you to choose left hand or right hand first, chicken or egg first. It don't make sense. The point of agility is that you make your living doing things that are useful and natural to you. That actually, so basically why you get paid is because this one is a producer's mindset. You are producing things that people can enjoy and people benefit from, and therefore you get paid. So that's a very sustainable cycle that goes on and on. It is the cycle that sustains humans across thousands of centuries. So that means don't feel that you have to choose one or the other. Pick a useful profession, make your living from it. Okay, and then the last one on my list here is to take money from people that you don't align with. So this can refer to employees who are collecting your salary from companies that you may not align with their vision. And then the thing is, first of all, it's like there's a bit of that guilt collecting money from doing things that you don't agree with. And on top of that, the unfortunate truth is you take people's money, now you have to deliver what you have been paid to do. Now, this also happens to business owners. It also happens to freelancers too. If you find yourself hanging on to a lot of these projects that you continue doing, is like, why? Because we need money. But actually, I don't align. So then it's like, at the end of the day, you actually become complicit. You don't agree with them, then you still do. So that means the fact that some things that are happening in the world that you don't agree with, actually you are part of it. You are the one creating the problem. And this becomes, there are some decisions that need to be made along the way. And like I said, these 13 principles here not only allow you, it's multi-pronged, that by incorporating these 13 principles, you are immediately doing what is natural in the Air Era, using what is natural to you, you are purposeful and you're happy. And the thing is, it helps society. And it's like, and it's really not that complicated. I show you a lot of examples already, okay? So guys, you see, this session, right, is going to end, well, it's 1:34 now, okay? So it's going to end in about 5-10 minutes time, okay? And the thing is, I do what I can within a 2-3 hour period. And this is already the second day. I spoke for like 3 hours non-stop yesterday, right? And the thing is, I've done a lot. And it's a lot of weeks and weeks of preparation just to put this thing together for everyone. And the thing is, after this time, after this 1:45 or whatever it is that you have on your 2023 plan, you'll be on your own to execute it. Okay, but the thing is, if you feel that you really like what we are doing here with astrology and like getting people to transit from one to the other, then I invite you to be part of my astrology class that's coming up. And the thing is, for many of you, a small percentage of you will be able to take your plan and then you will be able to do your transformation by yourself. And that's great. But I also know from doing this for more than 10 years now, is that the vast majority of people need some help to get clarity. Because then you end up doing a lot of things and it doesn't sit with you and you don't know why. And the thing is, a lot of people also need help to get past what I think is yourself. So quite a lot of the students I've had over the years, I lost count really, that they actually know what it is that they want to do, but they couldn't get past themselves. It's like, I just don't think I can do it. Right? And the thing is, they look at people who have done it and they don't know why some people can do it and some people can't. Okay, so, and the thing is, now this course, the courses that I teach, it works really, really well for people who I call professionals. And when I say the word professional, I don't mean this PMET rubbish. What I mean by professional is that a person who actually has a professional skill. I don't care if you're a doctor or you're somebody who knows about trash management or that you're a good cook. Doesn't matter what it is, that as long as you have a skill to contribute. And also the people who currently already have side hustles. There are things that you a bit do on the side on weekends, help your odd friend here and there. And there is no confidence to make a switch fully. Even though for lots and lots of people, you already know that there's something. Every time I talk about this air era thing, you already know that there's this thing you want to do. And somehow you're just not making a switch. And you know exactly the reason why it's called Earth Era Safe Zone. Okay. And I'm very good at dealing with Earth Era Safe Zone. And this works for the people who really want to see the world and the community move. Because what happens is that we don't actually encourage people to do things just purely for money, and it doesn't do useful things. And you can be very frustrated with your own abilities that you're not even using. So that means a lot of my students kind of tell me, actually, I'm quite good at this. Then I'm like, are you using it? Like, no, because my industry norm doesn't allow me to use this. It's like, how long more you want to let this go on? And also you're sick and tired of your own inaction. You think for so long already. And some of my students tell me, oh, I have this plan. Then I ask them, your plan think how long already? They say 12 years. I'm like, oh my God, you want to do another 12 years? Another 12 years, you collect your CPF already, if it's even still there. Okay. And also that they also want things that you can address and you can act on. So basically, it's not just information that is like nice to have, but it is actual things that can you start this now? Does this work for you? If yes, do it. And it really is that simple. Now, if you're among this category, then I would suggest to you that you might have a few challenges moving on, because the truth is most of you only have Earth era frameworks. So that means in order to do a transition, straight away people start thinking about things like the old-fashioned timelines. They start thinking, okay, do I need a PhD? Do I need a master's? Do I need to go and get like some years of experience? But then if I got no experience, nobody will hire me. And guys, I tell you, all of these are very, very bullshit. Sorry. There are 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds who do not have 25 years experience in something. Here's the irony. You have 25 years experience. The 16-year-old doesn't. How come the 16-year-old can do? And then there are people saying that, oh no, must have capital first. I need to have like at least $500,000 in my bank account, like clear and free from liabilities. Then I can do this. Yeah, the 18-year-old just finished national service. Sometimes they started while they are in national service. And I can tell NS pay is nonsense. And so if that fella can start it with an internet connection and like whatever is left of his NS pay after paying for like motorbike license and things like that, then you can do it, because most of you have way more resources than that. So it's like a lot of these Earth era frameworks are based on how to build a business, how to build like an empire from like 1950 something. And right now it doesn't work. That's why 16-year-olds can start their own business. So the thing is, a lot of people, quite frankly, secretly think that your abilities are of not much value. And some people get offended when I say this, but he says, no, how can you say that I'm of not much value? Then I say, then go freelance. And straight away, a lot of people tell me, but I'm not sure if I go freelance or whether I can make a living. Not sure whether people will pay for me. Then I think you think that your skills are of not much value. And that's why you can't survive if you don't have a fixed salary. And also some other problems that you will face is that you have no idea who will benefit from your service. You have no idea how they will benefit, which is why you don't even know where to start. If I ask you set up a Facebook page, don't need Facebook. Now you do Instagram page, mobile app, or maybe just create a podcast. And you're like, so podcast for who? Say what? And that becomes a real big issue, because you're not even thinking about what is the function that you do and who will you help. And also the thing is, the mediums that you see that are available in your so-called industry may not fully resonate with you. And this one, I can tell you my story, which is, guys, I'm an astrologer. Do you know what most astrologers do? They go to the Straits Times and they write horoscope column. Right? And then they go to all those female magazines and they write like, annual horoscope and things like that. I tell you, I lost count of how many times I've been approached to do this. And guys, let me tell you something. I have never written horoscopes. My entire astrology career, I have never once even bothered to write a monthly or an annual horoscope, because my function is not to stay within the industry norm. My function is that we want to help people make a transition in their life, deal with crises in their life. And let me tell you, a horoscope, anyone here ever had your life been transformed by a monthly horoscope? No, right? Said no one ever. So which means doesn't align with me, I don't do it. I have never done it and I never will, right? So the thing is, see, the mediums is such that if you're stuck in this industry norm, then I would have thought that, oh, if I want to be an astrologer, then I must do this. Then I wake up in the morning going like, hey, basket, I gotta write this stupid thing again. And that's exactly, then I'm no different from an unhappy employee, isn't it? Same thing. That's not what being a freelancer is about. And it turns out that my medium happens to be 6-hour online webinars, which are so unique that no other astrologer does it. But Well, go figure, that happens to be my medium. And that's it, and it resonates with who I personally am, right? And I'm happy doing it, even though it's hard work for me. And so the thing is, a lot of people cannot even articulate or describe your plan. So you tell your husband, you tell your friends, you tell your kids you want to do this, and people say, huh? Can you say more? And then they, I also not very sure. Then it's like somehow or something like this. Then if you can't describe it, no wonder you can't execute it. And that means it's really important to have the vocabulary so that even if it's just a few words that resonate. And if you like what I did with the function exercise, now that's a lot of what happens in the training. It's because the function actually starts to tell you, oh, this is a problem. And then we flesh it out into things like mediums, how exactly you want to solve this problem. And then the plan starts to become clear. And it's not so much of a plan that's being told to you, it's a plan that's being developed by putting different pieces together, different functions and mediums. And that's how a lot of freelancers create offers that are very, very unique to them. And they don't have to follow some stupid industry norm where everyone is doing the exactly same thing. No wonder no one stands out. Okay, so now the thing is, that's why for all these people who struggle with these things, and there's a reason why I know about these things, and also because I studied this for a long time. And to me, I can tell you astrology is the only tool that I know of that truly tells that unique story, that it tells you who's the target audience, what is the purpose, why the person do this, and why you're so angry why you get triggered whenever people say this, and how can we use the anger into the activities that you actually do on a daily basis. And I think also is that it gives you the honest truth about what you're good at and what you enjoy. And sometimes you're not doing all these things in your career, and I don't know why. And also that there are things that you really suck at or you really hate doing, and yet over and over again, I see people in my class telling me that I really hate this. Then they laugh and they say, yeah, but then that's kind of my job, right? Then they look very sad. And it's like, and the question is, well, I want to be honest with you, astrology doesn't actually tell you this, but this one is where I claim credit. It is down to a very, very no bullshit, no nonsense way of looking at the chart that questions what is there and matches it to the decisions that you make on a day-on-day basis. And then I ask you all the difficult questions. It's like, so you hate this, right? And why are you still there? And so it becomes the difficult questions that get people to confront what it is that you're so afraid of, and then how to deal with it. And I think that's really a very big value. And so you also get down to things like your essential values. What are the boxes that need to be ticked so that you know that when you do this thing, you can do it for the rest of your life. And it's not just if you ask some people, like, so are you happy where you are right now? They say, it's okay for now. And that is not for the rest of your life. When a person gives the answer, I tell you what they are doing does not align with their values. They actually can't see themselves doing this more than 5 years. And it doesn't sound like happiness at all. And it doesn't sound like you're doing a good job at all. So that means, and also things like the contribution to the world and to the community. And that's why in view of this, I would say that if you want to get things done, then you must go to someone who knows what they're doing and who have done it already. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I have made that transition. And I did not start my career as an astrologer. In fact, I started in the corporate world. I was from the construction industry and I was in the safety industry. I'm a specialist in height safety. I make sure that people don't climb high and then fall down and die. So that was what I did for many years. And I was quite successful at it. But you see, you can always tell that it doesn't mean that the work I used to do was not meaningful, but it was not the place where I could do my best work. And I knew from many, many years ago, more than almost 20 years ago now, that I had some abilities in astrology. I'm good at this. And the thing is, my previous job did not allow me to do this. And I understand the fear that goes with that transition. And I think that when I did my transition during the Earth era, and right now, anyone else who's listening to this, your transition will happen in the Air era, where it's so much easier and so much more accepted. And that's why, to me, is if you're going to learn this, if you decide you like this astrology thing, then please learn it from someone who actually does know what they're talking about and they've actually done it and used it for that purpose. And otherwise, you're going to burn a lot of time and energy trying to make this happen on your own. And you know that the truth is a lot of people run the risk of never actually making the transition from the safe zone to the agility thing. Most people will never embrace the Air era thing. And if you don't believe me, think about in your life, how many people you personally know basically live their entire life up to the end of their lives and never actually met their life purpose. So that means they went to their graves just never actually carrying out their life purpose. And I'm not lying to you, it's the truth. Most people won't do it. Okay, so now the question here is, do you genuinely want to make your living doing what is natural to you? And are you willing to spend some time and effort looking into your astrology chart, see your story? And also, what's most importantly is to really go and take some action this year before things change. And then it's like, basically the ChatGPT thing shows up. And then you end up doing things for pure survivability. Okay, now if your answer to that is yes, okay, then I will invite you to join me in another room. Very soon my guys will post a link, and just so that we can take the convo to another space and so that I can close up my summit properly. Okay, so for everyone else, okay, I would say thank you very much for being here. And I think 2023 is going to be a very, very interesting year. It's a year where those of us who understand the point of this entire summit is that we are preparing for a new time. And the biggest change now is that the things that we have depended on, the structures like governments, like basically knowing for sure that something is going to be delivered, that people are going to be nice to each other. There are some things that we've taken for granted for a long time, and it's not going to be that. And this is why our plans for this year is so important. Okay, so I would like to thank everyone for your attention here. Okay, and I'd like to end my summit here. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. And for the people who are going with me to the other room, okay, so I would ask you to think of 2 questions. And if you're thinking whether to go to the other room or not, there's just 2 questions, very simple. Okay, number 1 is, do you genuinely want to live that purposeful life? Is it important to you that the story that you lead is something that is unique to you? And you genuinely are interested in looking at functions and mediums, how to extract this information from your charts so that you can incorporate it into the activities that you do. Okay, and the second question you need to answer is, do you believe that with Maysim and with astrology and with a real no bullshit, no nonsense approach to this, that you actually can get the information you need so that you can make the necessary change in your life? Okay, so I'm going to get my guys to post the link. Right? Can you all post the link now? And so guys, the people who want to go into the other room, you can click there. I will join you there in a very short while. We'll take this conversation to another room. Okay, and for everyone else, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I know it's been a very, very long webinar. It's long for me too, right? And me and my team, we spent a lot of effort doing this. Okay, so if you could sort of share with people, we are going to put our recording on YouTube very shortly. And it would be really important to us that you share the recording with as many people as you can think of, because this planning is not just for 1 or 2 people. It's really for communities all over the place. Okay. And so, guys, thank you. And I will now go to the other room. Okay. So guys, the people who are going there, please go now, because then my guys are going to close the room. Okay. So do it now. And I'll see you guys over there. I'm going right now.